forward, please.
21-year-old student Cara Restelli is suing former friend, 21-year-old student Megan Waterstrat, for the use of an international phone card. Megan says Cara left her stranded in Europe, and the phone card was used for emergencies.
Okay, the facts of this case, I don't believe, are in dispute. You two ladies were good friends and decided to travel to Europe together.
Yes. Correct.
And sometime towards the beginning of the trip, you received word that the fiancé of a very good friend of yours had died suddenly.
Yes.
And you felt as if it was important for you to return home immediately to be with your friend.
Yes.
Okay. Where in Europe were you going?
We were traveling all around Europe, London, Italy, and we were supposed to go also to Spain and France.
How long was the trip?
It was supposed to be for 3 weeks.
How much into the trip had you received that information?
It was 9 days.
Okay. When you left the defendant with your phone card.
Correct.
That was really your father's phone card.
Right.
Yes.
Father phone card. Sit. And according to you, your father got a whopping bill.
Yeah.
The defendant's calls, and you want her to pay for those calls.
Correct.
Can I see the bill, please?
Yes. I have a list of all the phone calls she made as well as the actual phone bills. It spans over 2 months because it went from 1 month into the next.
Have you seen these?
Yes, I have. She sent them to me in the mail.
Any calls that you question?
No, I don't question any of them.
Okay. So what was the total amount of the bill that she is responsible for?
She made $849 worth of phone calls plus taxes and fees, which came out to $1,015.
Okay. There you go. Big talker.
Absolutely.
So why aren't you responsible for this bill?
Well, upon leaving, or Cara leaving Europe, she gave me the phone card for emergency calls. And in my opinion, all the phone calls I made were for emergencies. So I feel that I don't have to pay.
Well, let me understand this. She gave you the phone card because you didn't have one. Is that right?
That's correct.
And tell me about the conversation that you had with her when she gave you the phone card.
Well, I don't really remember specifically.
Then you don't remember specifically? Then you can't help me.
Oh, I can. Well, she said, here's a phone card, so when we leave, you know, you can use a phone card in case of emergencies. And so I did tell her that I would help pay for the phone bills, but she also agreed that she would not leave me alone in Europe, and she was willing to pay $500 for a ticket home. So when she sent me this bill, like, there was a disagreement between, like, she owes me $500, but yet
What she owe you $500 for?
Because she promised she would pay for a ticket home for $500. Like,
why should she pay for your ticket home?
Because she left me in Europe. Well, as it turned out, like, she left me. It was her decision to leave me. This trip had been planned out for quite some time, and it was a major expense. And I bought a restrictive ticket and could not change the date to fly home.
She had an emergency.
Well, of course, but
Just a second. She had an emergency.
Well, of course she had an emergency, but in my opinion, it was an emergency that I thought she should go home for.
Were you having a good time for the 9 days that you were there?
With her?
Yes.
Yes.
You having fun?
Yes.
Wasn't as if you were having a miserable time and not getting along and you dumped her. No, you were having a good time.
Yes.
And you had, I assume, planned this trip for a long time. And wanted to continue with the trip.
Yes.
But you felt as if you had a moral obligation to go home and be with your friend.
Correct.
Excuse me, Honor. I also thought she had a moral obligation to stay with me because we were halfway across the world.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Well, if you're 21 years old, madam, nobody has to babysit for you.
Of course not, but the whole reason why I went on this trip with a friend was to have, you know, to have a company, like, to have somebody there to talk to and share the experience with. So she left. That's not fulfilling her, like, obligation to me. I mean, I went on this trip.
Well, let me ask you this question. If you lost a member of your family, if you received word that a member of your family died while you were 9 days into the trip, do you think it would have been the right thing for you to do to go home?
With my friend, yes, and I would pay for her ticket home also.
Baloney. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,015. Grow up!
Now, this is case number 271 on the calendar, the matter of Rochelle versus Martin.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Rochelle, you were the caregiver for the defendant's grandmother.
Yes, ma'am.
Who passed away on the 31st?
24th of January.
24th of January. It is your claim that the defendant slandered you by claiming that you took some money that you shouldn't have, that was her grandmother's money.
Yes.
I think that was in Social Security checks, that because she said that you had taken those checks and you weren't authorized to at that time, the money was taken out of your account, causing other checks that you wrote to bounce. So what you're suing her for is $5,000 for the aggravation that you had and the bounce check fees, etc., and also for slandering you.
Yes.
Ms. Martin is going to explain to me what happened. She says that this whole thing is really about an insurance policy that you had on the life of her grandmother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So let me try to place this in perspective. Okay. Ms. Rochelle, when did you start to act as the caregiver for Miss Martin's grandmother?
In May of 1999.
What was wrong with her grandmother?
She couldn't walk very well due to rheumatoid arthritis, and she's a diabetic also, so she didn't get around very well.
Was your grandfather alive at the time?
In 99, yes, he was.
So were you caring for both of them?
I cared for him also, yes.
Were you living in or just?
Yes, I was to live in.
Who hired you?
I wasn't really hired. I come here, they were my godparents. I moved here from Kansas City because I was here in December prior to May of 1999.
Oh, so you knew that they were your
godparents?
Yes, I knew them. I didn't realize that.
So when I got there in December and saw what condition they were living in, I mean, adults, people shouldn't have to live like that. So when I went back home, I couldn't rest, so I came back out to try to get their home and get them in living condition, and I was going to go back home. I figured everybody else would take care of them. It didn't happen, so I was here till they both died.
So your grandfather died first?
Yes, he had Alzheimer's and other conditions.
So he had Alzheimer's?
Yes.
But not her grandmother?
No.
She just had physical problems?
Physical problems. She was very strong mentally.
Okay. And it was agreed that the Social Security checks were to be direct deposited into your account?
Well, it was agreed that that's how she would pay me, yes.
So she was paying you?
Yeah, the last year, the first 2 years I worked for, took care of her and Mr. Spivey with no pay.
How much was she paying you?
June of 2002, she started paying me $1,100 a month. But prior to that, she wasn't paying me anything.
Oh, just a second. Now, was that $1,100 her Social Security check?
Yes.
Now, when did you leave the employ of, what was your grandmother's name?
Mrs. Alberta Spivey.
When did you leave Miss Spivey's employ?
I came home one Friday evening, and she explained to me that Monday, which would be the 28th, that she would be going to the hospital and from there to a nursing home.
Okay. Now, that you claim that she told somebody at the bank that you had stolen money or taken money. What money?
I have an affidavit with a check that Miss Martin accused me of stealing, which was a check that I received every month for Mrs. Spivey. For Mrs. Spivey.
What month?
November 1st.
Well, you weren't in her employ in November.
But she still expected me to take care of her. I was her sole provider.
No. She left on October 28th. November
Yes.
1st. You got the check. It should have been returned. Is that the check we're talking about?
The arrangement we made was that when Mrs. Spivey came to me in April of 2002, she didn't pay me for April. So when she left, by her not giving me a 30-day notice, I was supposed to keep November's payment also. That's the arrangement we made.
That's hearsay, madam. If she left your home on October 28th,
okay,
and if Miss Martin complained that you had taken November's check and appropriated it for yourself, and it was a Social Security check, then she didn't slander you. Is that the check you're complaining about?
Well, Mrs. Martin had no arrangement with Mrs. Spivey's and I arrangement, you know. I mean, there's no written document saying I get this every month, I do that. You know, I cast a check, she'll give me what she wanted.
Well, if there's no written document, then you can't take her Social Security. Her Social Security goes to her. So if that's what you're complaining about, Miss Rochelle, your complaint is falling on deaf ears. She says that this is all about an insurance policy, and I'm sort of curious about that insurance policy. When did Miss Spivey take out an insurance policy naming you as beneficiary?
She had the insurance policy in 2001, but when she came to live with me, she complained the whole time. We talked previously on the phone.
Just answer my questions. You can't tell me what she said to me. She's not here.
August, I believe, of 2002.
August of 2002, she changed the insurance policy, making you the beneficiary.
Yes.
Who had previously been the beneficiary?
Her daughter in Topeka, Kansas.
And where did she go when she changed the insurance policy? Did she go to somebody's office, or did somebody come to her?
The insurance agent, which is present here in the court, he came to our home and took out the policy.
Who was the insurance agent?
Mr. Harvey.
Step up, please. Your last name is Harvey?
Yes.
May I interject for a moment, sir?
Yes.
The insurance policy prior to August 20th had lapsed. So a new application was issued August 20th, 2002, and this is the application to which plaintiff is referring.
So in August, when you came to the house, sir, she did not have insurance.
Correct.
Had you been Ms. Spivey's insurance agent previously on the old policy?
No.
And when you came to the house, you wrote up another insurance policy and named a different beneficiary. Is that correct?
Well, I
Is
don't
that
know.
correct? That you wrote up another policy with a new beneficiary?
Correct.
Just answer my question.
Well, I didn't know
sir.
who the first beneficiary was.
Who determined, Ms. Martin, that the signature on this new policy was not your grandmother's signature?
The policy issued in August 20th, 2002 is her signature. The policy was amended in November. That is the signature my mother and I have disputed with Guarantee Life Insurance. That is not her signature.
What do you mean the policy was amended in November?
Okay.
Was the policy amended in November?
It was increased,
From what to what?
10 to 15,000,
November what?
about mid-month.
I have the
Who
exact
called
date, Your
you to
Honor.
increase the policy?
Miss Rochelle.
Miss Rochelle, who is no longer taking care of Miss Spivey. Is that right?
I was taking care of Miss Spivey. I was
No,
running
she-
back and forth to the nursing home taking care of her. Yes, I was.
On November 8th, she was not in the nursing home. She was at Brotman Medical Center.
Well, I was out there also. Records can show that too.
But also, Your Honor, this policy is a joint whole life policy with my uncle and my grandmother. My uncle was incarcerated through at least January 19th, 2003. His signature also appears on both applications. I don't see how that's possible.
I don't know either, but are you still in litigation with regard to that second policy?
We were told by Guarantee that the policy would not be paid. so
And it
we
has
have-
not been paid, is that right?
Yes.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
He just all of a sudden started shaking the car, pushing it back and forth. Then he just swan dives on top of my roof. And I said, I'm gonna call the cops. He says, you want me off your car? Come down here and make me get off your car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Caregiver Dorothy Rochelle claims her deceased client's granddaughter, Joyce Martin, falsely accused her of stealing. Joyce says Dorothy took out a life insurance policy on her grandmother.
All right, not so hard. Miss Rochelle, you had no right to keep in your account Miss Spivey's Social Security check for the month of November of 2002. You were no longer taking care of her. The $1,100 was to provide for her care. She was either in a hospital or she was in a nursing home during the month of November. Both of those facilities were entitled to a piece of her Social Security check, not you. Ms. Martin.
Yes, ma'am.
She has a very simplistic lawsuit here. Her lawsuit says that you accused her of stealing money, of using money that she wasn't entitled to.
Correct.
And I've just told her that she wasn't entitled to that money that she had in her bank account.
Okay.
And that if, because of your complaint, that money was withdrawn from her bank account and she suffered damages because other checks bounced, that's too bad.
That's correct.
Too bad. She had no right to keep that money. It was a Social Security check. I've answered you. You had no right to keep the money. You may disagree with me. That's your problem. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye. Good luck.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I took care of this woman, grandmother and grandfather, for 4 years. She was too good to take care of them.
The package I brought with me today are the remains of my grandmother.
That she got the audacity to take me to court when she never came around.
I had her here for moral support today.
She had her girlfriends and everything she's sleeping laying up with, but she couldn't take care of her grandmother. I did it, put my life on hold, and I'm the bad guy now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Massey versus Walker, step forward, please.
19-year-old student Katrina Massey is suing her former neighbor, 21-year-old student Austin Walker, for damaging her car when he jumped on the roof.
Miss Massey, defendant was an acquaintance or a friend of yours, and you claim that he was acting like an idiot and a fool and dented your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Jumping up and down on your car. So why don't you tell me when this happened and tell me what happened?
This happened on May 7th of 2003. What happened was I was inside of my apartment complex in which we share the same apartment complex. I stay on the third floor.
You're on the third floor, he's on the...
On the lower level, right beside my car. Yes, ma'am. And so he calls me, he and his roommate call me to the window of my apartment, which is my bedroom. So I go to the window, we start having a regular conversation like any other, and I do know him.
What time is this?
Like around 7 o'clock.
Okay, go ahead.
So we're having a conversation, and then all of a sudden he starts like joking about my car. My car is small, and he starts joking about my car, and then he just starts shaking the car. And I'm like, what are you doing?
What is he saying about your car?
Just about, you know, how small it is, and look at this little car, and such and such and such. And he's always done little ignorant stuff and say little ignorant jokes to get my attention, because he does like me.
Because he's ignorant.
And he is. And so, you know, he does little stuff like that to get my attention. For instance, there has been times where he and his roommate both... I don't want to hear about other times. Let's just stick to it. I have enough trouble dealing with this time. Okay, well, so then anyway, he's talking about the car, and then he just all of a sudden starts shaking the car.
How is he shaking it?
Beside it, pushing it back and forth, rocking the car.
Where were his hands when he was rocking?
On the rim, like where the door would close at the top of the roof, right here. Like this, where the glass would be right here, and his hands were on the top of the roof.
So how is he pushing the car? Is he pushing the car up and down, or?
Pushing it, shaking it. His roommate was on the other side, which was the driver's side, with his hands in the same position, so the car was rocking back and forth. So then he continues to laugh and joke, and, you know, I'm like, get off my car, stop playing with my car. Then he just swan dives on top of my roof. So I'm like, what are you doing? Ah, ha, 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 laughing and joking, whatever, with his roommate going back and forth. I got upset and started cursing. Then we get into an argument. He jumps off the car and does it again, like that, on top of my roof again. So then we have another argument. I said, I'm going to call the cops. Oh, I don't give a, you know, cursing and everything. Call the cops. Call the cops. I don't care. He said, you want me off your car? Come down here and make me get off your car. So then I went downstairs. He was still laying on the roof of my car. I said, if you don't get off the car, I'm going to get in it and pull off. Go ahead. Go ahead. I don't care. Go ahead.
Is that what she did? She got in the car and drove off with you on top of the car?
No, I wasn't on top of her car.
Oh, okay.
He was on top of my car, Your Honor. And then I got in the car. I cranked it up. He's still laying on the car. I told him again, Austin, get off of my car. I'm not getting off the car. Make me get off the car. So I pressed the gas. As soon as I drove and he jumped off the car, I drove off.
Okay. Can I see pictures of the car, please?
Yes, ma'am. The first picture is to show you how small the car really is compared to my height and his. Then there's pictures of the dents, there's pictures of the windshield guard that was ripped off, and there was also pictures of his handprints on top of my car, in which they're huge, so you can tell that they're not my handprints at all. And when I realized that my windshield guard was broken off, I came back to the apartment complex and told him, look what you did to my car. He and his roommate.
What's this mark here?
His handprints.
This?
Look. That was paint that was already gone. That was gone before he touched the car.
Right, I didn't think, because it looks rusted.
Yeah, that was already gone.
Okay, now let me hear your version, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my roommate had picked me up from work earlier that day, and we came home. We were outside talking, like we usually do sometimes before just going in the house, and we were dribbling the basketball. And we were outside talking, and then familiar voice from upstairs comes out screaming, "What are you guys doing out there?" She always talked to us from the third window before, nothing different. So we're dribbling the ball, and my roommate was dribbling the ball, and it got away from him. And it went over by her car. And this one, she was like, you guys better stay away from my car. And I said, no, the ball's not gonna do anything to your car. So we started talking back and forth again, and this time we were sitting there, we were actually talking to her through the window still. And since she came downstairs and we were outside, and my roommate was sitting by her car, and we were sitting by her.
Don't close your eyes, sir. Keep
my roommate
them
was
open.
sitting by her car. His car was parked right next to her, so we're in between his car and her car. And she's still saying, don't sit around my car. So it comes to the fact that I stood behind her car, my roommate stood in front of her car. And she said, you guys get away from my car, I'm gonna pull off and I'm gonna hit one of you.
When did she come downstairs? She's up on the third floor.
She came downstairs while we were still dribbling the ball. She came down, just got out the window, next thing you know, she was downstairs talking to us. So we were downstairs and we were talking still, and she tried to get in her car, and she was going to back up and hit my roommate. He got out the way. She pulled out like she still was going to hit him. Then when she went to go hit him, she was pumping her brakes, like, you know, stopping, like she was going to hit him so he can get out the way. That's when I went to the side of her car and started rocking her car back and forth. At this time, her car...
With her in it?
With her in it, yes. The plastic strip that protected the window
What were you
sill.
rocking her car for?
Because she was trying to hit my roommate, and I was just
Well,
trying.
he can move pretty fast, can't you?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you rocking her car for?
I was rocking her car basically to get her attention because she was about to hit my roommate.
She wasn't going to hit your roommate. Even he wasn't worried. He could just take a step, right, sir?
I don't know about a step, but
You could get...
I could have died.
Sure you could, right, Mr. Walker?
Probably not. She was pretty close. He's not that fast.
Looks pretty fast to me. He was playing basketball with you, wasn't he?
We were just dribbling the ball. We weren't actually playing.
Was he dribbling it standing still, or was he
Yes.
moving around?
Just dribbling, standing still.
Mr. Walker.
It's possible. You just dribble the ball and stand
Mr.
still.
Walker.
Yes, ma'am.
So you start rocking her car back and forth.
And
Now,
the
where
pla-
were you just a second. Where were you holding on to the car when you were rocking it back and forth?
Or she sat at the seal at the top, rocking it back and forth like this. And then that's when the plastic strip came off. She said, "Oh, you broke my car. You know, I'm gonna make you pay for that if you don't fix it." So I popped it back into place for her. So at this time, she pulled off, parked again, got out the car, said, "Well, I'll see you guys later. I'm going to pick up my boyfriend." So we stayed outside for another half hour talking. She rolled back up and said that how the piece fell off on the highway and I was gonna pay for it. And then at that time, she said, "Well, it costs $113. Now it's a piece you can get at AutoZone for $15. And so I said I wasn't gonna pay for it. So I'm not paying for that. So I went in the house, went about my business.
Okay, step up. Tell me your name.
Alonzo Frink.
Tell me your story.
I had went and picked my roommate up from work, and we came home, and we was outside just talking. I was just standing around dribbling the basketball, and he's like, "Pass it to him." So I passed it, and it got away from me. Like, I passed it a little too hard, and it rolled by his car. And that's when she came to the window, and she was like, "Y'all need to stay away from my car. Stop playing around my car." And we was like, "We're not playing around your car. Nobody's gonna hurt your car." And later on, she came down, and she was just like, "I need to get away from my car before I hit y'all with it."
Why would she say that if you weren't in your car? Maybe she was hallucinating. You think so?
Maybe.
You have a crush on her?
Not at all.
Little one?
Not at all.
Mr. Walker, you can't put your hands on other people's property. Even according to your own testimony, you put your hands on her car and you rocked her car back and forth. And I find that there was no basis for you to do that because all your friend had to do was step out of the way. And you did that because you were being a wise guy. She got a little dent on the top of her car. A little piece came off of her car. It's not a big deal. It's going to cost a few $100s to fix it, if she's going to fix it at all. She certainly didn't fix the rust spots that were there for a much longer period of time, right?
It was there when I bought the car.
And you certainly didn't fix it, right?
I don't work, so.
Right. So I don't know how much this little dent that's on the hood of the car is going to trouble
That's
you. In any
from
event,
the
you should be able to get the
dealership.
whole thing fixed for about $350, and that's what I'm awarding you, because you can't put your hands on somebody else's property, sir.
I do
you understand?
I do understand that,
Judgment
ma'am.
for the plaintiff in the amount of $350, that's all.
Now, this is case number 341 on the calendar, the matter of Corbello versus Berdino. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, have a seat, please.
Ms. Corbello, you and your husband and child rented a room from the defendant. It is your claim that she owes you for rent and some property of yours that she kept when she evicted you.
Yes.
The defendant says that you and your husband were terrible to her, especially your husband, and that she really had to evict you because you were taking advantage of her, had done a series of terrible things to her, which she is, of course, going to tell me about, that she owes you no rent, and she, as far as the things that you say that she has that belong to you, she doesn't mention that at all. So do you have any property that belongs to the plaintiff?
The property that was left there was put into my garage. I informed this lady that if she would call 24 hours prior to her coming over, she could take everything she has.
Okay, so you come and take property whenever you want it.
Yeah, but the problem is because of the way that she behaves and the way that she put this fake restraining order on me, I am horrified to go over there to pick up anything.
Go with a police escort.
Okay, that's what I plan on doing.
Very easy. Go with a police escort. If she has a restraining order against you, I suggest that you do that. When did you rent the room from her?
We began renting the room from her the beginning of March.
And how did you find the room?
My brother-in-law lived there, and my husband was going over there to help him with work around the house, and that's when he found out that she was going to be renting a room.
You say that she owes you for some rent.
Yes. Okay, can I just tell the whole thing how we even ended up here? Because we wouldn't be going through any of this if she would have just handed me an eviction notice, or at least gave me notice that she wanted me out of the house, but which she did not do. That's how the restraining order came up, which was all lies.
Okay. Ms. Corbello, let me try to simplify it, and I think that I can probably do it quickly. You moved in March, and according to your complaint, you took your son to the doctor sometime in July of 2003.
Yes.
When you took your child to the doctor did routine tests and found that the child had elevated levels of lead.
Right.
Okay? And you believe that the elevated levels of lead came from the defendant's home. So you contacted the health department.
No.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. The health department comes out, or you tell her that you called the health department, and she is appalled that you called the health department, because they're going to come in, and if she's got lead paint in her house, they're going to say to her, you have to rip out all the walls, sand down all the walls. She'd much rather have you out of there. Right?
Right.
Right. I don't know what you were looking for her to do. Were you looking for her to spend $25,000 to redo all the paint in her house?
No.
She's an old lady. She's not worried about getting lead poisoning.
I understand that,
Good.
but
Good.
the agreement was when we moved in there that I was going to help her with things around the house, and that she was going to have my husband renovate all the other things that were wrong with the house. I have pictures here of her house, plus a report from the health department of all the things that she should have taken care of. Now, had she
Miss Corbello, you were renting a room. Maybe she didn't want your husband to take care of everything. Listen, I'm going to read her answer to you. The husband, Oswaldo Corbello, began taking checks from my checkbook and proceeded to forge my signature. On April 15, 2003, I called the fraud department of Wells Fargo Bank and canceled my checking account. Later, he had stolen my ATM card and took every penny from my account. It was Wells Fargo that notified me of such. Okay, now, I'm not saying whether that's true or not true, but clearly, she didn't want your husband to do all the renovations in her house. And she didn't want to have anything to do with him. That's what her answer says. In any event, what you chose to do, instead of saying to her, listen, we have a problem here, I can't continue to rent a room from you because it may be your house that's exposing my child to lead paint. That's, of course, if you're not watching him, because children don't breathe in this lead paint that's from eating the paint chips that fall off.
But I did warn her that they were coming.
Listen to me carefully. I don't care whether you warned her or not. Instead of calling the health department, you could have come and said to her, we're going to have to move out, because unless you do your whole house, I can't stay here with my family.
I did do that. I asked her for 2 weeks. I did do that.
Just a minute. Did you ask her for 2 weeks before or after you called the health department?
I told her that the health department was coming out.
Just answer my question.
I don't recall.
Of course. You already called the health department. Now, what rent money does she owe you?
I have receipts here for 4 months, $500, $300, $300, $300, and also a check for $950.
So why? Just a second. How much rent were you supposed to pay?
My rent was only $300 a month, so I was overpaid on the rent.
Just a second. You're going to have to explain to me why, if your rent was $300 a month, that you were giving her $400 a month or $500 a month. Can you explain that?
Yes.
Good. I'd like to.
The first month's rent was only supposed to be $300 plus $150.
Just a minute. How was that? I don't understand. I never heard of
$150 for deposit because we just moved in. But she kept complaining about, oh, your child needs this, and I need a high chair because I don't want him running around on the floor, and blah, yada, yada. My husband ended up just giving her $500, okay? Then the next 3 months, we ran into some financial problems, but my husband found a place that would help us pay the rent because she was harassing us so bad. So I found an agency that helps people that have problems with rent, that would help us pay for our rent until we were able to catch up.
How many months did you live there?
6 months.
The rent was $300. Even my rudimentary math tells me that you should have paid her $1,800.
We paid $1,400. The check that she received was $950, which is a total of $2,350.
Is that right?
No.
We have receipts right here. I can show them to you.
Those are receipts that he asked me to write when he was in jail, so that he could obtain a check for me.
Her lies are getting bigger and bigger.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your husband beat you up so badly he ended up in jail.
No,
he was in jail.
He was in jail.
Me. What?
Once.
Speak not.
And later today,
Do you want to think a little bit more closely as to why you served 90 days, sir?
Going 120 on a public street.
You were charged with reckless endangerment.
Yes, ma'am.
They still come and they think they're smarter.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Puni Curbelo says former landlord Ellen Berdino won't return her property. Ellen says Puni reported her to the health department.
When was he in jail?
May and June.
Where was he in jail? In what county?
Los Angeles.
What was he in jail for, do you know?
Domestic
Spousal
violence.
abuse.
That was committed while in your home?
Yes.
Lovely. Perfect. So what you're telling me is these receipts, I want to see the receipts. These receipts were written at his request in order to obtain this $950 check from the government.
Yes.
I'm just asking her what she's saying.
That is such a lie.
Okay. If you paid her all these months that you were supposed to, and she's lying that these weren't just receipts in order to obtain this $950 check, then the County of Los Angeles will come back against her and get the $950.
Which they're going
but
to
there
do.
is no way in the world that I'm going to give you that money.
I'm not asking
You live
for
there. You are asking me for it. You said you want reimbursement for rent. That's what you're asking for in your lawsuit. Okay, so you don't get the reimbursement for rent. You do get your property. 5 days, go there with a police officer. Pain and suffering. What? Pain and suffering.
She sent my sister over to beat me up. These are pictures. After my sister did it, she went and picked her up so that she can come and see the damage and so she can get a good laugh, which she did. These are pictures. I really would like you to see those.
Just a second.
And I really wish you would look at these pictures
Listen.
of this house that we had to live in. It's not fair. She's sitting there sweet and demure like she's not a
Madam,
monster.
you are
And
not
she
in
is.
prison.
I'm not
You
saying
are not.
I was there
Listen
to
to
help
me.
her, and we were supposed to help each other.
Are you related to this lady?
No, but I thought we were
Listen,
friends.
You're not friends. She was renting you a room.
She's
Your
a friend
husband,
of the family,
listen
though.
to
That's
me.
the thing. We
No,
knew
Madam, you're not getting it. You moved into her house. You were supposed to pay rent. You moved in with your child and your husband. While you were in her home, your husband beat you up so badly he ended up in jail.
No, he
was in
didn't beat
jail.
me up. He
was in
slapped
jail.
me
What?
once.
Speak not. He was in jail. They don't put people in jail for the month of May and June for nothing. Not even in the county of Los
It was one
Angeles.
slap, and there was no marks when the police officer showed up.
Madam, was it the first time he was arrested for domestic violence? The answer is no, because then you don't go to jail for May and June if it's the first time that he slapped you. That doesn't happen. I sat in family court for many, many years. You're not going to get a dime from this lady. If you moved into her house and you didn't like it because it was a disaster, what you do is you, your husband, and your child pick up and leave. You're not serving a sentence, but you don't turn around and sue her. Ridiculous. And then expect this money that you got from the County of Los Angeles to be returned to you.
I'm not asking for that money.
You
I was
did.
asking for that money to be applied towards the rent. It was supposed to be for the first and the last month's rent and the deposit. That's what that was for.
No, if you can afford to pay your own rent, pay your own rent. And give the money back to the county. Your case is dismissed. Goodbye.
She is a very vindictive, deceitful person. The detective has pictures of him at the ATM. He even borrowed my car, and you could see my car in the distance. I don't think I should be inviting anyone else into my home.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lake versus Lake. Step forward, please.
Marketing rep Keith Lake is suing his son, 23-year-old DVD duplicator Jonathan Lake, for an unpaid loan to buy a car. Jonathan says he paid back his father by sending him care packages in prison.
Mr. Lake, the defendant is your son, and according to your complaint, sir, you made a loan to him several years ago for the purpose of his buying a car. He made several payments and then ran into some financial difficulty. You want the balance of your money.
Correct.
Your son acknowledges that you did make this loan. I think it was for a little over $6,000. And acknowledges the fact that he stopped making payments when he had some.
Financial difficulties with my son.
But says that you forgave the loan. And he has a very interesting theory of how and when you forgave the loan. So why don't you, Mr. Lake, tell me why and when your dad forgave this loan?
Okay, in November of, what was it, last year, I believe it was, he ended up going into being incarcerated or whichever.
Not whichever. He ended up being incarcerated.
Incarcerated.
For what?
Tell you the truth, I really don't know.
For what, Mr. Lake?
DUI with injuries.
You hit somebody and caused physical injury while you were drunk.
Yes.
Was this your first DUI?
Yes.
Okay. How much time did you serve?
9 months.
So he was incarcerated.
And I had I got a call, and what happened was he ended up telling me that if I took care of him while he was incarcerated, such as care packages, when he got out, we were supposed to be square. And I turned around and I said, okay, fine. Well, he got out, and then I was told that we weren't.
How many care packages did you send him?
I sent him at least 4.
There's one.
Shh. You have receipts from those?
Actually, no, but I have a witness that was with me when I mailed them off. His name is Elliot Carruthers.
All right, Elliot, why don't you step up here? Tell me about this care package that you saw.
Sorry. Well, it's basically usual stuff like candy, cookies, and it was something about exactpackage.com.
So he didn't go and pack something. What he did was he called a company to send them to his father?
Your Honor, you can only get a package every 90 days. I didn't contact him till maybe after 4 months, 3 months I was inside. The package at the most was worth $100, and that's why I feel.
What did you say? What did you say to him when you called him?
I didn't call him. I sent him a letter. Okay.
What did the letter say?
That I was disappointed. I'm embarrassed that I'm busted where I'm at, and that I need him to, instead of paying me $400 a month, I asked for $200, $50 a week that I could spend there, because he had 2. I'd also just got out of jail on a suspended sentence. He was down for 90 days.
For
so
what?
I gave him 90.
For what?
Suspended license.
Why was your license suspended?
I'm originally from New Mexico, and when I moved out here, I had one ticket that I didn't know about in New Mexico. It was for like $80. And when I drove out here, I had been pulled over, didn't know it, and he said he couldn't let me drive, and I was taken in.
Well, first of all, you were taken in, not taken in.
Sorry.
There's no such word as taken.
My mother corrects me on that too.
Well, good. I'm glad I'm making you feel at home. And they don't take you to jail for 90 days for that, sir. Let me explain something to you. They don't take in or otherwise you to jail for 90 days because you didn't realize that you had a ticket back in New Mexico that you didn't pay. So you want to think a little bit more closely as to why you served 90 days, sir?
I was also pulled in for exceeding the speed limit, going
well, now we're getting better.
Going 120 on a public street.
That might be worth 90 days. You were charged with reckless endangerment.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
They still come and they think they're smarter. Do you want to know why you're not smarter? If you ask Bird how many times he served 90 days in prison, you know what he's going to tell you? If you ask me how many times I served 90 days in prison, you know what I'm going to tell you? Does that make me smarter or you smarter?
It'd be you.
It would be me. And he.
And me.
So can I see the receipts for this send a care package to prison.com where you sent your father some care packages?
I was, okay, on that incident, I was married, and I had recently gotten divorced, and she had all these papers that we had just went through. We got in an argument, and I was tossed out of the house, so I wasn't able to get any of them.
What do you want from me?
I don't know, ma'am.
How many pounds do you think these packages weighed?
They were up to 60.
What do you mean up to 60? You mean from 0 to 60?
Yes.
From 0 to 60?
Yes.
Because I read that in your answer. You said I sent him packages 4 times. Each one was 60 pounds. I said, what the hell, they sent him 60 pounds? They allow prisoners to get 60-pound packages right full of candy? Are they trying to kill him?
It's 30,
Listen,
Your Honor.
What?
It's 30 pounds. It's not 60.
How many pounds of candy did he send you?
2 pounds of candy, maybe been in there was coffee, a CD player. This was one-time shot, though. That was it. But I would never say, because of that one single package, that this thing is forgotten about. I asked him to come visit me. He never did. He promised to come down, didn't. I'm a little disappointed. You know, this is my son who, I know his mother and I were divorced when he was 10, but I sent him things all the time.
Oh, Mr. Lake, I wouldn't go there if I were you, sir. I just have a feeling that I wouldn't go there, that you were Father of the Year.
No, definitely not the best father in the year, that's a fact. But
I wouldn't go there, probably. Can I see proof with regard to this loan that you made him? I need your withdrawal for $6,500.
I don't have the withdrawal form.
Well, let me tell you this, Mr. Lake. I think that if you made this loan to your son, that this loan was not forgiven. However, I am not awarding you a judgment until I have received proof from you that you withdrew $6,500 from your bank. Do I make myself clear?
Absolutely.
That's the judgment of the court. Judgment for the plaintiff. You owe your father the money. With that proviso, thank you very much. Step out.
Neighbor, Bijan Gadanian, scammed her into moving out of her premises so he could move in. She says she was promised $3,000, but never received it.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 107 on the calendar in the matter of Kennedy versus Gadanian. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
All right, well, this is an interesting story. Miss Kennedy, you had a beauty salon that was there prior to the defendant's business moving right next door. Is that right?
His business was actually there, but he just bought it. There was the first owner there when I moved in.
But he was not there when you moved in.
Right.
You have a beauty salon. He has a
paging and cellular service business.
Okay. And according to your complaint, you were in this salon for about 6 months when the defendant approached you and said that he was interested in expanding his space.
Right. I was in there for a year, and he had been in there about 6 months when he approached me.
Okay, so after a year, he approached you and said?
He pulled me aside on the front porch and said, "Can we talk for a few minutes?" I said, "Sure." He said that he was, wanted to know how long I intended on being in my space.
And how long was your lease, Miss Kennedy?
I didn't have a lease. I was month to month. But I did plan on being there for quite some time.
How much was the rent on it?
$525 a month.
Okay. So the defendant approached you, according to your papers, and said, "I'm interested in expanding my business. Would you like to move?"
Right.
And you said what?
I said I had no intentions of leaving. Then he said I would be willing to compensate you to leave, move your business elsewhere. And I said, you know, let me think about it for a little while, and I'll get back to you. But I really had no intentions at the time of leaving. I had only been there a year.
So?
So I said, let me think about it. 2 days later, I came back to him, and I said, yeah, I think I want to take up your offer. I think that instead of moving someplace else, I'm just going to, you know, go to work for someone else. The market's really hard to find someone in my business right now, and, you know, I would love to just work for someone else for a while. And I said, you know, I need enough money to pay my bills.
What bills?
The loans that I had on the salon. I had one from the bank, and I borrowed a couple $1,000s from my husband's parents.
So how much did you ask him for?
$3,000 was the agreed amount.
And did he agree to giving you $3,000 if you would move?
Yes.
So he was really buying you out of your space, according to you.
Basically, right.
And what happened, according to your papers,
right,
which I read very carefully, was that eventually you were told that when he went to negotiate his lease with the landlord, he said to him, "I'll give you half of what she was paying in rent."
Right.
The landlord said, "Absolutely not."
Right. He then came next door to me and said the deal's not going to go through, but by then I had already given my girls notice and found another place.
How many employees did you have?
I had 2 girls at the time.
Okay. Ultimately, you did move into that space, sir, is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And you didn't give her the $3,000?
There was no agreement about $3,000, Your Honor.
Well, I'd like to hear your version of what happened.
Okay, I'll be happy to. Actually, she's right. I approached her. We casually asked her what her plans are, and told her about my intentions to move. I need a larger place, And at that point, she says, well, I've been thinking of moving. My business is not doing well. And I'll give you an answer. I got to talk it over with my husband. I'll give you an answer. And then a couple days later, she approached me and said, yes, indeed, I've talked it over, and I've decided to move. And she asked me for compensation. I said, you know, Tracy, this is not, you know, the right time to talk about anything at all.
No.
I don't even know.
No. Just a sec. Shh. Ms. Kennedy. Shh.
I don't even know if I can reach an agreement with the landlord. So please let me talk to the landlord, see if I can reach any agreement with him. And then if there is anything to talk about with you, we'll talk about it.
That doesn't sound right to me, sir.
No, that's not what happened.
There's just a second. That doesn't sound logical to me, sir. So what you're telling me is the amount of $3,000, that figure, never came up in your discussion with her.
She threw that number at me.
Okay.
I'm not
so
denying
it did.
that.
So
Yes.
it did come up in your discussion. And you asked her if she would like to relocate because you wanted to expand your business.
That's not in the context it came up, though, Your Honor.
Well, you did, in fact, expand your business into her space.
That's correct, yes.
So this is what we have so
Yes.
far. We have your discussion with her about your wanting to expand, her throwing out a figure, which you acknowledge that she threw out a figure of $3,000. Your statement, well, it's not a good time to talk about it now. I have to talk to the landlord first. Now, did you speak to the landlord?
Yes.
And what was that conversation with the landlord, sir?
At that point, I offered a total of close to not.
Not a total. I'm not interested in total. I'm interested in what you are telling me under oath that you offered the landlord for her store to rent.
I did not offer landlord a particular price for her space. I
offered for total.
For total.
Oh, okay.
My
We're going to
space.
get. I understand.
I'm sorry.
How much were you paying for your store alone, sir?
$550, $551.
For your store alone.
That's correct, ma'am.
And what did you offer the landlord for both places?
$900.
So, in effect, you offered the landlord substantially less than what she was paying
That's correct, yes.
after she had given notice that she was leaving.
That's correct, yes.
So now you got the landlord by the throat.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Honestly, I had no participation in her moving out.
I'm going to give him a copy of my book.
And later today,
he advertised our show as Playboy Girls of Rock, you know, as Playboy. And they were going to see a bunch of beautiful women in bras and panties.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tracy Kennedy says she moved out of her manicurist salon because Bijan Gidanian promised her $3,000. She says he never paid her and the whole deal was a scam.
The landlord has a tenant that's given him notice. It's got somebody else ready to move in right away. And you were going to get a bargain because you were going to get 2 stores for $900. Was your store the same size as his?
Bigger.
Bigger. So you were going to get her store for $400. You were paying $550 for yours, so the landlord said to you at that point, forget it, right?
Your Honor.
At that, just a second. We understand each other, this gentleman.
I'm glad someone does.
We understand each other, so don't we?
Yes,
So the
Your Honor.
landlord said to you, forget it, at first. Then you moved out.
Right.
You moved out in June, correct?
Yes.
When did you move in?
July 1st.
And what rent did you pay?
About $950, close to $1,000.
You're a
Let's
good
say $1,000.
businessman. No, not let's
No,
say
I-
$1,000. Sir, you're a businessman. You know exactly what you pay for rent in this business. So let's not say about the $950. Exactly what do you pay in rent?
Your Honor, the only reason I say about because the rent itself is the rent, but there are some other triple nets and what have you that figures in that I'm not quite sure. That's what I'm saying about. That's why I say about $1,000. I'm sorry?
Rent.
The rent, the base rent is $950.
Rent!
$950, Your Honor.
So you still got the landlord for a couple of bucks, but he didn't give you the lease right away. Did you sign a lease with him?
Yes, I did, Your Honor. I had a year lease with him.
And you signed another lease for the second space
That's correct, Your Honor.
at a monthly rent of $950.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So the landlord lost that. So where's her money?
There was no money agreed upon, Your Honor, to begin with. She did not have to move. Honestly, I had no participation in her moving out.
No.
All I had with her was just a casual conversation for her, what are your plans? And she acted upon that.
I'm going to give him a copy of my book. Sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
I come from an old business family. My grandfather was in the appliance business years and years ago, and he's been long dead. I adored my grandfather. He liked to call himself a shrewd businessman. Some of the people that he dealt with sort of dubbed him with another name. So I'm aware of what you did. This story has a common sense approach to it. You wanted to expand. This lady was under the impression you were going to take over the same rent that she took over. Nobody would be hurt. She had evidently had enough of being an entrepreneur, enough of being in business by herself. She said, if I can just get out with these loans, I'll go and work for somebody else. And here comes the perfect opportunity for her to do that. And it's a perfect opportunity for you to more than double your space at a lot less rent. Because once she gives notice, the landlord is up a tree. So the only one that comes out ahead in this business is you. That's smart, but not fair to Miss Kennedy. All right, not difficult. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff, who I believe, in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll back door to your right, please.
I'm sorry that the judge did not see the con artist in disguise.
She saw you, exactly. If you hadn't made me an offer,
she could
I
have
wouldn't
stayed
have
there.
left.
She could have absolutely stayed there and
No.
forgotten about
No.
leaving.
The judge was
She had no
right.
reason to leave.
You're right. She saw the con artist. Judge Judy's the greatest.
And now the next case.
Parties on Russell versus Heinold. Step forward, please.
32-year-old entertainer Karen Russell is suing booking agent Chuck Heinold for non-payment of a performance fee. Heinold says the act wasn't what was promised.
Miss Russell, according to your complaint, you are an entertainer and have a group of entertainers that you work with. You dance and sing. You have a review kind of act. Is that right? According to your complaint, you performed in Bakersfield and you weren't paid.
That's
Is that
correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The defendant is not the person who didn't pay you. The club, according to these papers, stopped payment on the check.
This is true.
So why are you suing him? Who is he and why are you suing him?
This is the booking agent, Chuck Heinold. In my contract with the casino is with him representing me.
With who representing you?
Chuck Heinold representing me.
Let me see your contract. Go ahead.
And when we were doing business with Chuck, he knew at that time the type of show that we were producing. And my biggest complaint is that if we were represented properly, we probably wouldn't be in this situation.
Just a second. Miss Russell, one of the things I didn't understand from your complaint is he is your agent.
Booking agent.
He is your agent.
That's correct.
He didn't get paid. He didn't get the check from the club to give to you. So how could he give it to you? Because it was stopped.
Because he was because he misrepresented us, the casino was not happy with the show. And basically, when I spoke to him the Friday evening, we had technical problems due to the casino's staging and equipment. He told me, don't worry, no matter what, you will be paid. If it has to come out of my pocket, you will be paid.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I'm telling you it's true. You say no, I say yes, I win, I'm the judge.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 32-year-old entertainer Karen Russell is suing booking agent Chuck Heinold for non-payment of a performance fee. Heinold says the act wasn't what was promised.
I'm reading your complaint, and I don't see anywhere in your complaint that he said, don't worry, I'll pay you even if it has to come out of my pocket.
Wait. He said, don't worry, I have the balance owed to you and I will come back on April 5th to pay you.
Well, of course, I understand that. He said he had the balance. He did, in fact, have a check, correct? He had a check from the owner of the club. The owner of the club subsequently stopped payment on the check. Is that correct, Mr. Heinold?
That's right, Your Honor. I have the check right here. I have a copy
I'll take a look
of
at the check. That's not what you said, Miss Russell. What you said to me was he told you that he would pay even if it has to come out of his pocket. That's not true.
Well, that's what
he never said
to
that.
us over the phone.
Just a second.
Okay.
He never said that because that's a very important thing. And if it was true that he said it, it would have been in your complaint.
I have a witness that he did say it. He said it to myself and the partner on the phone conversation Friday night, when I also found out that we were being represented as former Playboy playmates.
Just a second. I'll hear this witness if somebody wants to testify under oath that this man said, don't worry, I'll pay you even if it has to come out of my pocket. Who wants to testify to that? Let me ask you this question. Are you sure you want to testify to that, sir? Are you positive? Stand up here. First, tell me your name.
My name is Juan Llano.
Mr. Llano, I want you to think very carefully, sir. Are you sure that you want to testify that you heard this man say the following words? I will pay you even if it has to come out of my pocket. Did you hear that?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
When I talked to him directly the night before our last two performances.
And you're a member of this group?
Yes, I am. This is my company.
Did you ever say that to them?
No.
Why would he say that to you? You're so full of baloney, you people. Why in the world would your agent tell that to you? When he had a check in his hand from the people who you were working for.
Because I confronted him.
Confronted with what?
I confronted him because I've been in this business for about 15 years, and I know that people write bad checks.
I understand that, but you're suing the wrong person.
We're
Person
suing
who
him
stopped-
for misrepresentation.
What kind of misrepresentation? How?
Former Playboy playmates when we're not.
Who did that? Flyer.
He.
Just a minute. Just a second. Did you print that flyer, Mr. Heinold?
No, ma'am, I did not.
But the casino, when I called the casino, I said, where did you get this information?
Don't tell me what the casino said to you. That's hearsay.
Okay. When I was trying to find out where this came from,
yeah,
the source went back to Chuck Heinold. They got
that's
the
hearsay,
information
madam.
from this.
That's hearsay. That's hearsay. Now, you may have been upset with that, but that's not misrepresentation.
Your Honor.
By him. He did not, unless you can establish to me that he actually printed those flyers and sent them out, that's not misrepresentation.
Your Honor.
What?
He advertised our show as Playboy Girls of Rock, as Playboy. And they were going to see a bunch of beautiful women in bras and panties. That's not our show at all. We have a very classy show. For us to come into the casino and see outside the casino is a huge sign in neon saying Playmates.
Let me ask you this question, sir. Why didn't you leave? If you were unhappy with the promotion, you got there.
We didn't know about the promotion until after the second show.
The problem was, nipping it in the bud, is they were unhappy because they wanted to see the bras and the women, and we don't have a show like that.
You're wasting my time.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You're wasting my time. You're suing the wrong person.
That's not true. He's
Oh,
responsible.
I'm telling you it's true. You say no, I say yes, I win, I'm the judge.
I know.
You are suing the wrong person.
Judge
he
Judy,
did
what
not.
about-
Hey, He does not pay you. The club pays you. They cannot, after you work, and you did work for the 4 shows,
Yes, we did.
they cannot give you a check and then stop payment on the check. That's against the law. It's not his check. You don't mind if you don't speak, do you?
No, I'm fine.
Your lawsuit's dismissed. Go sue the right person. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may
Thank
step
you,
out.
Your Honor.
Out the back door to your right, please.
That's
Sir.
ridiculous.
And on the next Judge Judy.
And if you would have not have lied and said, we are Playboy Playmates, the owner came to me specifically and said, well, where's the play? We got people walking up to us thinking we were Playboy. Do I look like a Playboy Playmate? No, and I am not. I have worked so hard in this business to be who I am and to do well.
And I wish you the best
and
of luck.
agents like you who lie and deceive and rip off artists who are just trying to, I worked for weeks. And for what? To not get paid?
You did get your commission,
and
right,
you got
Chuck?
your commission. Yes,
You did put it in your
You are
pocket.
such a liar. You are such a double-headed,
That's all what we
two-faced
have to
liar.
Her next-door neighbors, Toby and Mark Kaplan, to pay the veterinary bills. She blames their German Shepherd for her cat's death.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the court, please. All rise.
Judges number 21 on the calendar in the matter of Germain versus Kaplan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
How long have you folks been neighbors?
Almost a year.
According to your complaint, Ms. Germain, you were the owner of the cat. The defendants own a dog. What kind of dog do you have?
German Shepherd.
And unfortunately, you allege that their dog injured and your cat subsequently died as a result of those injuries.
Yes.
And you are seeking the vet bills that you
Yes.
incurred. Now, why don't you tell me how that happened?
I was in my backyard watering, and Toby came to my gate and called out my name and said, "Candace?" And I said yes, and she was very calm about it. So I said, "Go to the front door," because my gate was locked. So on my way to the front door, I stopped, I got a glass of water. I took my time because it didn't sound urgent. I got to my front door, I saw she was holding my cat, and I said, "Oh," I go, "my cat looks dead." I go, "But sometimes they look that way." Then I noticed her tongue was hanging out of her mouth, and I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" And she said, "Well, we had just gotten home with our family, and I let my dog in your yard, as I usually do, to go to the
That's not
bathroom."
true.
That is exactly what was said. And she said, it took me no more than a few minutes to bring my baby carrier in the house, and then she said the dog came back with my cat in her mouth.
Where had your cat been?
The cat was in my yard at the very top of the back of the gate, which is like behind my house.
But in your yard?
Yeah, in my driveway.
So you took your cat, and what did you do with the cat?
Well, I took the cat and I couldn't find my keys, so I insisted that she take me to a vet because I didn't even know where a vet was. And
How long had you had the cat?
10 years.
What kind of cat was it?
A Himalayan.
What color? Blue
I have
Point, Teal Point? I know a little bit about
yeah,
cats.
I'm Blue Point.
I love their faces, don't you?
I know they're a totally different kind of a cat, if you know.
Yeah.
Like regular cats. My son had seen the cat up in the driveway 5 minutes prior to her coming to my fence with the cat.
Okay. So you took the cat to the vet, and what happened when you took the cat to the vet?
They said she had severe trauma and that they did x-rays on her, and they said that she needed to stay overnight for care, that she wasn't well enough for me to take her home, but they didn't provide care there. So I had to take her to Studio City for overnight care. And they told me, just go ahead, pick up your cat at 8 a.m. She'll be, ready to go back to the vet. I called them right before I left my house, and it seemed everything was okay. When I got there, they said that she's gone the other direction. She'd never make it back. So they had me bring her next door for surgery.
You want to take a minute? 1 minute?
So I took her Or they transported her next door to the Studio City Animal Hospital. Where they spoke with me, and they did not say that, you know, she's not going to make it or anything. They just said that we can't, you know, say either way. And I said to go ahead. And
what do they want to do?
They said she needed to do surgery because her lungs, she had a leak in her lungs, or air in her lungs, from the punctures.
So they did the surgery?
Yeah. Then they sent her back over to the overnight, and I kept checking on her. One time I checked on her, and they said she was stabilized, and then I checked on her again, and they said she wasn't doing well. And then at midnight, they called me, and they said, you know, she's now probably has like a 5% chance of living. And she'd already been through a lot, so I just told them to let her go.
And what were the veterinary bills that you incurred?
I have them on here. $1,434. And that's just from Studio City Animal Hospital. The overnight care I paid cash. That was a couple $100. And then Sherman Oaks Veterinary, the first place I took her to, was a little over $300.
Do you have those bills?
Those are all the bills. That's the overnight. All right. Here's this. Actually, this is the total for. And then here's Sherman Oaks Veterinary Group.
Thank you. I have $1,786. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I didn't add
Between
this.
these two bills, yeah. Okay.
There's three bills.
Who's going to speak? Mr. and Mrs. Kaplan?
I am.
Tell me what happened on that day.
We were at home. We had finished our dinner, and then we went out to get my daughter's booster seat out of my husband's car, and we brought the dog out with us. She comes out with us oftentimes and stays right near us, or she'll go piddle and come back.
But she was not on a leash.
She was not on a leash. So she walked out with us. We walked to the car, which was about 10 steps from our front door, opened the door, pulled out the booster. Mark went around to the trunk of his car to open up the trunk and looked on the sidewalk, and our dog had her cat by the scruff of the neck walking gingerly towards us as if she had found something injured and brought it to us. And I even reached out and I pet the cat. Cat felt dry, bone dry, fine. Didn't even have any indication that anything was wrong. Looked up at me, and I thought, well, I don't know why she even brought it over. She's never done that. And we started to walk away. The cat got up and started to walk towards the house. And when she was walking, I thought she looked a little funny. So I thought, well, let me check and see. Maybe this is the way the cat is, or maybe there's a problem. So I picked up the cat, and she still hadn't said anything. We hadn't heard anything, seen anything. I picked her up, and I went to Candace's front door. I knocked. There was no answer. I heard watering in the backyard, so I went to the gate. I yelled out about 4 times to Candace before she answered, and I said, I think there's something wrong with your cat, but I'm not sure. Can you come to the front, you know, come, let me in? And she said, the gate's locked. I'll go in the front door. I'll come out. She came to the door after just a couple of minutes, and she looked at the cat. She said, oh, my God, what's wrong with the cat? Is the cat dead? And I said, I don't know what's wrong with the cat. Gabby brought her to us, and I don't know what's wrong. And I tend to be a calm person by nature, so I wasn't melodramatic about it. And all of a sudden she said, oh my God, her tongue's out. And then Candace started, oh my God, is she dead? Is she going to? And she just, with the tears and screaming and carrying on, and she was very upset, which I could understand. Being a pet owner, you get upset if there's something wrong with it. So I took Candace to the vets with her cat. And at that time, the vet had said it could be, it appears to be a puncture. She could have been hurt. It could have been from an animal, you know, bite, whatever. But they didn't know, so they took her back to stabilize her. And it wasn't until the next day or the day after she came over with bills and handed them to Mark. And Mark said, you know, well, what is this?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Candace Germain claims her neighbor's dog killed her cat and wants Topi and Mark Kaplan to pay all the vet bills.
Ms. Germain, I have a few questions for you. I have to get the logistics. Was your cat within a confined area?
She was just on the, no, she wasn't. She was just on the other side of the fence.
And do your two properties abut each other?
Yes, our driveway's between the 2 yards.
So that your cat was outside of an enclosed area and your dog was
in my yard.
Outside of an enclosed
Was
area.
outside of an enclosed area.
Outside of an enclosed area.
Right.
That's
and
correct.
when we saw her, she was on the sidewalk in the front.
Her dog went into my yard.
But you
That's
didn't
what
see
you're
that.
saying.
There
Can
are
I
many
say
dogs
that
in our
my-
front yard all the
Can
time.
I say that my cat, because she's an indoor cat and she'd accidentally gone out, never leaves that top of that driveway. She does not walk around the front of the yard because she's usually in the backyard.
You know what we're talking about, Mr. Maine? What we're really talking about is there is a certain responsibility that you have when you let a pet, whatever that pet is, outside without a leash, or a cat outside without being confined to an area. What I was trying to ascertain was whether there was any proof that their dog somehow got into your fenced property where this cat was.
No.
And there is none. So the next question is, did the dog actually do the damage to this cat? Now, I want you to describe to me how this German Shepherd came to you with this cat in his mouth.
Well, she was
I'm sorry.
She was carrying the cat by the scruff of the neck like a female dog would carry its pups. And the cat was just sitting there. She wasn't trying to get away. She wasn't doing
She doesn't
anything.
know
She
any
was
better.
just carrying.
She doesn't know any
There was
better.
no sound. There was no skirmish. There was no anything going on. And the dog walked right up to Mark, right up to him like, you know, there's something wrong here.
Well, you know, sometimes I have seen dogs, I don't know whether you have, come in with squirrels, come in with all kinds of little creatures outside to sort of bring a gift
That's right.
home
That's
to
right.
their owner. Look what I have for you. And they're not bringing that home to say, listen, this is an injured pet and I'm coming to you because I want you to fix it. They're coming to you and saying,
Look at
I
what
have
I
a
brought home."
trophy
Right.
to give you because I love you.
Well,
that's what they're saying. I
This would
assume.
have been the first time she brought this trophy home.
But she's never,
Hold on a
she's
second.
never.
Go ahead.
This would be the first trophy that she'd ever brought home in the 2 years that we've had her.
Has she ever brought home
No,
Has she ever brought home a
Nothing.
sick pet for you to help?
nothing.
So she has never brought home a sick pet for you to help, which is really what you
Well,
are
she also
suggesting.
never carries anything ever in her mouth. She won't even fetch a ball. She won't do
But she
anything.
did this
Yes,
time.
She did.
Yeah.
She did this time.
Right.
And so your supposition that she was bringing you home a sick pet to show you that she had brought home an injured animal is merely supposition. I want to tell you right now that it strikes me more likely that for whatever reason she was bringing home a trophy to her owners. And unfortunately the trophy
Well, it was
was
less
hers.
than a 2-minute period of
It
time,
doesn't-
though, that it was there,
Let me-
and the.
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today,
And actually, I feel sorry for her new boyfriend because she's probably going to ruin him like she has me. So.
real cases, real people, Judge Judy. Toby and Mark Kaplan say they shouldn't be held responsible for the death of Candace Germain's cat, that any dog in the neighborhood could have been responsible, not just their German Shepherd.
I'm not a German Shepherd psychiatrist, and I'm not a behavioral scientist, so I can't tell you what German Shepherds usually do. All I can tell you is you have a dog that you've just told me never did anything like this before.
Right.
But did it now.
It carried a cat to me, yes.
And so, based upon the proof that I have, which is she had a live cat with no problem, and your dog brought her cat, your big German Shepherd brought her little Himalayan cat in the mouth. The cat suffered trauma. Cat didn't survive. It appears to me that I am satisfied by the required quantum of proof in these proceedings, which doesn't have to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It has to be proof by what we call a preponderance of the evidence. You know, more evidence than not. Your dog caused these injuries, so you're responsible for these bills. I would also suggest to you that when you have a big dog, and now you have a big dog that for one reason or another brought you prey once, that you see to it that that dog is not let out without a leash, even for a minute. unless it's in your enclosed property. Because you never can tell, a dog that is perfectly fine for years and years all of a sudden goes off like that. So I am satisfied that the injuries that were caused to her cat, which resulted in the cat's death and the subsequent medical bills that she is responsible for, were a result of what your dog did, and I'm awarding the plaintiff $1,786. Thank you, that's all.
Please excuse, you may step out. I'll back to your right, please. Sure.
Thank you.
Wanted to keep peace in the neighborhood and not have problems, and it hasn't been since this incident. In the rudeness towards us from them, the cold shoulders, which is understandable though, and then sprinklers shooting up over our cars that are on our yard that haven't been fixed, and loud music that vibrates our house and everything, and so, you know, they're just rude to us.
Parties on Bonnet versus Roberts. Step forward.
35-year-old engineer Ronald Burnett is suing his ex-wife, Sandra Roberts, over a check that bounced.
Mr. Burnett, the defendant has been served in this action and has not appeared, so I'm prepared to enter a default judgment in your favor, sir. But before I do, there are several questions that I have.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, the defendant, who is your ex-wife, borrowed money from you.
Well, actually wasn't borrowed. She asked for the checks, or she gave me checks because she needed the cash immediately. And her landlord...
First of all, why would you lend your ex-wife money in the first place?
Well, she was living with me.
Why?
Why? Well, she has a 2-year-old son who, well, actually he's 5 years old now. He's 2 years old when I first met him. He doesn't have a biological father of record. So he called me his father, and I'm very attached to the little boy. So I went and allowed her to come back and live with me for the little boy's sake, because she come back from wherever, Missouri, I believe it was, and until she found a place of her own. I allowed her to stay with me.
How long did she stay with you?
Oh, it was about 3 months till about January. And then an incident occurred where she started having a lot of her male friends calling in the middle of the night, and she'd talk to them for hours. She wasn't providing anything around the house. She was like basically living as if I was, a parent or something, taking care of her. And so I asked her to leave, and then she got violent one day on the car. I was picking her up from work. She didn't have a vehicle at the time. She took the mirror off and started hitting me with it and stuff. So I said, you have to leave. You have to go. And it's not good for the environment of your son. So she got an apartment and all. Well, she started getting behind on her bills because she, for whatever reason, and she basically wanted to either come back to live with me or, she needed help with her bills. So for the little boy's sake, and I still have feelings for her. I mean, I know in my head that, it never worked out between us. I still care for her and adore the child. So...
Do you visit with the child?
I was up until recently, until all this mess with the checks go, and so I haven't seen him quite a while now.
That's too bad.
Yes, it is.
That's
I
too
feel
bad
sorry
for
for
him.
the little boy, and then I feel sorry for myself, of course.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much did you give her that she failed to return?
Okay, what it was at the time I didn't even have the money, but she needed $250 immediately for her rent in cash. So she wrote me a check out, but I didn't have the cash in my account at the time. And she needed it that night. Then I finally agreed to give it to her. So I went to the National Check Cashiers, and they have a $37.50 charge. So she wrote me a check for the $250 plus the additional $37.50. And then she told me about her car being in the shop, and she couldn't get her car out unless she had the money for it. And it was additional $250. So we went to her car shop, and I wrote her $250. And she told me at that time, she says, well, I get paid Saturday. This is like on Thursday. She said, the money will be good by Monday. So she wrote me the second check for $250, which is what I wrote out to the car dealership. And I have all this information here.
So far I'm up to $537.50.
Right. And so it comes to Monday, so I held up. I didn't really need the money at that time, so I held up to the Monday, go to her bank, and I asked him, I said, do you have the money in the account? No, we don't. So then I tried getting a hold of her. She avoids my calls, and...
But she still owes you the money. She stopped payment. According to your paper, she stopped payment on these checks.
Yeah, well, eventually, then I deposited the checks. I was trying to do is prevent her from getting her bounce check charges, and from me getting them.
So all told, including, sir, the fees for these checks being stopped, came to $602.
Right, well, that included the mirror, because one of the things I was asking for was that she reimbursed, because then when I got upset with this, and she promised she would never hit me with the mirror and stuff again, then she turned around and then she did this with the check, so I said, well, I'm going to go for a reimbursement of where you broke the mirror. That doesn't count the medical payments of where she injured me with the mirror.
How did she injure you with the mirror?
Oh, when she broke it off, she started beating me with it.
Where?
Oh, about I put my hands up, so I have them about my wrist and arms and stuff.
Mr. Barnett, you better put a period to the end of this relationship.
Oh, it's already happened.
Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $602, the amount of his request. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, step out, sir.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She knew that I was right in everything I said, and the judge realizes that also, I'm sure. She's just going to do the same thing over and over again. Actually, I feel sorry for her new boyfriend because she's probably going to ruin him like she has me. So.
And Emma Apolinario are suing their tenant, 34-year-old Marissa Matazon, claiming Marissa stole 2 pieces of Tupperware and her son ruined their computer.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 134 on the calendar in the matter of Apolinario versus Matazon. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat.
You folks rented a room in your home to the defendant, correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And your complaint alleges that her little boy broke a computer?
That's
right. There's a very short piece about the computer in your complaint. And a very long piece about a piece of Tupperware that she took.
Here they are.
So, it says that you rented one of your master bedrooms in your home. Why did you decide to do that?
For extra money, Your Honor.
Did you put an ad in the paper?
Yes, we put it in the ad in the papers.
And she responded to the ad?
She responded to the ad, and she seems to be a nice person. And on the first day, she told us, it looks like that she already knew us. She tell us a lot of stories about her problems, even the first meeting. So we
you
thought she's a
decided
nice
to rent her a
person,
room?
That's right.
And you were living there with your son?
I was.
How old is your son?
He was 4.5. And when I responded to the ad, I talked to them. I wanted to meet them and see if I can trust them and everything like that. And they lied to me. They told me that they only have 3 kids and a niece that living in that house. And then I found out when I was already living there were like 11 people with 2 sisters and 2 children of each.
So why didn't you move out?
I moved out because...
No, why didn't you immediately when you found out that there were so many people there? If that bothered you, why didn't you leave?
Right. I was in the middle of job change. And it was so many furnitures. I have a lot of things in the storage and a lot of stuff that I have to move. And it was a hassle because I got a new job nearby to that house in that city. So I thought that I can have a good relationship with them.
Fine. So it didn't make any difference to you that there were so many people living there?
Right.
You stayed there?
I did.
All right. Now let's get to the broken computer. This is not a big deal. You had a son. How old is he?
He was 4.5.
You say he broke your computer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Who saw him do that?
I got a witness, my daughter, who was inside the room at that time.
How old are you?
8.
8? What is your name?
Angeline.
Angelina? Come up here. Have a seat. Can you get up there? Sure you can. Hi.
Hi.
Did you go to school?
Yeah.
I have a few questions to ask you, okay? Because you're only 8 years old, so I have to find out whether I can swear you to take an oath in court. You're very pretty. Are you nervous?
Oh.
Don't be. What grade are you in school?
2nd, but I'm going to be in 3rd.
Do you have a best friend in school?
Yeah.
Did you ever tell a fib?
No.
A lie?
No.
Did you ever tell a lie to your folks? To your mom, to your dad? Even a little one?
No.
Not even a little one?
Yeah.
When you told a little lie to your mom and dad, did you get punished?
Yeah.
Now, if I were to tell you that this was a duck, would that be the truth or a lie?
Lie.
Because it's what?
About that.
Now, Angelina, if I were to tell you that the judge, you know, that's me, right, is a young, beautiful woman, would that be the truth or a lie?
Truth.
Yes! Very smart little girl. Very smart little girl. Okay, could you do me a favor, and I'm going to let you sit there. Can you raise your right hand? You know your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know this lady's little boy?
Yeah.
What's his name?
DJ.
Did you see him do anything to the computer?
Yeah.
What did you see him do?
He put the disk in the computer.
And did something happen to the computer after he did that?
Yeah, it broke.
How do you know it broke, Angelina?
Well, I didn't really check it, but my brother told me it was broken.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. You're not going to waste my time with Tupperware that's worth $3.
Not even. It's at my cost. It's only $1.65.
And later today,
All she could do was stand there and let him abuse me after 8 years of friendship.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marissa Madazon, a 34-year-old travel agent, says she should not be responsible for damage that Amante and Emma Apolinario say her son caused to their computer.
Now, did you have a discussion with the defendant about this computer?
Yes, Your Honor, and many times she agreed to repair it. She even called her friend to look at it. And all I was
Did you
thinking,
do that? Yes, I tried, but I told them that I cannot accept it. But they are all over me and telling me that my son is the youngest, that he's the only one capable of destroying that computer.
Yes, go ahead.
She's a liar.
No.
She keeps on promising us, especially me. She told me before, after she moved out, after June 15, she went back to my house. And she said, I asked her, where is the parts that you want to buy for our computer? She said, oh, I already ordered it. I already ordered it,
Did you
and
tell
it's
her
my
that?
mind. That's
Did
my
you tell her
responsibility.
that you had already
That's
ordered
what
the
she
parts?
said to me.
Shh. Did you tell? Listen to me. Did you tell her that you had ordered the parts for the computer?
I said I will order it.
Okay. Well, then you agreed to pay for it. How much were the parts?
It's $100 something.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I thought that the CD-ROM was the only defective, but it wasn't the CD-ROM that was defective.
Sir, you didn't pay all that much money for the whole computer.
I did?
No, you didn't.
What happened is, when they told me that the computer is broken, the computer is all over, I mean, it's torn apart.
Bottom line is you agreed to pay for the parts.
This is what I
Period.
said.
You agreed to pay for the parts. Now, how much were the parts that you agreed to pay for?
It's $125.
Okay. Next, what's about this Tupperware? Tell me about the Tupperware.
Can I just say something before
No,
that?
tell me about the Tupperware.
Okay.
I'm getting frustrated.
Wesley went on June 15. It was June 15. Yeah.
June 15, she left the house, and then she went back. She left Sunday. She went back Wednesday, and me and my husband and my kids are there, supposed to be leaving, going to church. And she went by, and then
Give me
she
the
said,
Tupperware,
okay,
please.
the Tupperware. She's asking me about the Tupperware. I saw it in the garage. I told her, I never see any Tupperware of yours. What I know is
What is in the bag,
Okay.
madam?
This is what happened. Before I left on Sunday...
Is that the Tupperware that,
Yes, it
that
is.
you're wasting my time about? Could I
Yes.
see it, please?
Here.
Yeah, it's funny.
Just a second. Whose Tupperware is that?
Mine.
Both items?
Yes. And I have more other parts that were stolen from their garage.
That's all I'm hearing.
That's why I wanted to tell you the story. Before I left, I asked her permission if I can leave my boxes because I didn't have any more room in my car, that
Just
I
a
can
second.
pick them up.
Which, not interested in that. Which of these two items do you say is yours?
All of those are mine. I have a receipt here that I have lots of Tupperware in my house.
She bought my Tupperwares. I'm a dealer for less cost. Less
Your-
cost of what I bought of my Tupperware. She bought.
Oh, you're not going to listen to me. You're
Your
not
Honor,
going to waste my
excuse me,
time
Your
with
Honor. I got a
Tupperware that's worth $3.
I know, that's right.
Not even. Not
What?
even. It's not my cost. It's only $1.65.
Fine. Would you give? You giving it to her? Perfect. We've resolved the Tupperware.
I have plenty. She bought all my
Stop.
Tupperwares.
We've just resolved the
I'm a dealer.
Tupperware.
Can I say something?
About what?
She come to my house and she got the topper without my knowledge. Without
I told her
knowledge.
needs.
I'm the owner of the house.
Listen to me. Wow.
She admitted.
I couldn't believe when I read this complaint that there were 2 lines about a broken computer and 20 lines about Tupperware. I couldn't understand that. I still don't understand that.
Because
Must
we
be
have a witness,
very
Your
valuable Tupperware.
Well,
you
Your
now have it
Honor.
back. Quiet. Look, you have to pay them $125. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Big liar.
And now the next case.
Parties on Pinkham versus Crawford. Step forward, please.
26-year-old waitress Catherine Pinkham is suing her former friend and roommate, Chandra Crawford. Catherine claims she was kicked out of their apartment after getting into a fight with Chandra's fiancé.
Okay, you 2 ladies were long-term friends, I gather. And there came a time when you were living in different parts of the country, but you decided to move to California. Correct? Yes. And you decided to live together. Made arrangements to live together. You were looking for the right kind of place. And you were moving to sunny
California.
Right. But in the meantime, you found a boyfriend.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
So instead of being the 2 of you, it was going to be 3. You should have known right then and there. 2's company.
And 3's a crowd.
So why don't you tell me what happened and what you're suing her for?
Okay, well, I spent over $3,000 just in moving expenses, moving cross country. That is not what I'm suing her for. Basically, it's we made arrangements. We started about 1.5 years ago that we're going to live together as soon as I finish school. I received my degree. I moved cross country. I was in the house from September 8th until the 21st of the month. That night, I realized that, well, actually, I realized little things here and there over a period of time that her boyfriend and I did not get along. I didn't like the way he was treating her.
What was wrong with the way he was treating her?
He tells her what to wear. She waits on him hand and foot. She pays all the bills for him. He has no job. He drives around in her car all day, sits on his butt and watches video games. And I just didn't like the way I ended up paying, like, I was supposed to originally pay 1/3 of the security and 1/3 of the rent. All of a sudden, before I was moving out, oh, can you pay half the security and half the rent? And I'm like, well, what about timeshare? Well, his job didn't come through yet, and da-da-da-da. And basically, I want you to pay half, and then we'll reimburse you. Well,
so did you do that?
I paid half and half, and I have receipts right here.
How much did you pay altogether?
$13.50, and I have all the receipts with her name.
Okay.
And then I agreed to do it as long as he paid me his share back. I never saw the money. And I'm like, I was there for 2 weeks. There were squabbles here and there. They tried to throw me out after 3 days because he disliked my sister. So they didn't like my friend that came out with me that was also helping me in the move. So he decided, because he didn't like my sister and didn't like my friend, he wanted me out. So he tried to throw me out after 3 days, and I stood my ground and I said, listen, you know, I've invested all this money into this place. The last thing I want to do is leave right now. I mean, it was just a big mess. Well, after he barely ever maybe said 2 or 3 words to me at a time.
What happened at the end of September when you left?
What happened the night is I wasn't feeling well one day. We were watching TV. I mentioned there was a commercial on for a pesto crust pizza. I mentioned that I disliked pizza because I was living on the East Coast and that I prefer the pizza on the East Coast better and that I don't recommend eating it. He got up, stormed out of the room, and slammed the door. So I was just sitting there going, okay, what just happened? She came in the room 5 minutes later, Chandra did, and said, you've been bitching all day, da-da-da-da, about all kinds of things, and, you know, I can tell you don't feel well, and, you know, and I said, listen, Chandra, I said, I'm going to find my own place. It's just not working out because he's just not being very nice to me, and I've made efforts to be nice to him, and it's not working.
Okay, so?
So she went outside and told him that I thought it would be best that I moved out. He wouldn't come into the house, so when she came into the house, I kind of said, well, I don't feel well, but I'm going to go out and run some errands so he can come into the house, and you guys can talk, and I'll come back in a bit. I leave, I come back, I see him tearing down the street in her Jeep. I pull up to the house, she comes outside of the house shaking her head, going, "You can't be here in 5 minutes." He said it was either you or him. And I said, "You chose him?" She goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, can I go into the house and get some of my things?" As I was in there, he came back. He was calling me pretty much every profane word you can think of, being very, very rude, getting in my face, threatening me, overpowering me, and, you know, and
So
I was
you left that night?
I left that night with nowhere to go.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I wouldn't pour water on her. She was standing next to me on fire.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Pinkham is suing her former friend and roommate, Chandra Crawford, because Chandra and her fiancé kicked her out of their apartment. Chandra and Tom say Catherine violated the terms of the lease.
All right, so far I have $1,350 for security deposit. What else are you suing for? Because
Okay.
the total lawsuit is $1,700.
Okay. I'm also suing for moving expenses for the truck that I had to rent the second day when I went back to get my things.
How much was that?
That's $153.
Mm-hmm.
And then another $153
For what?
storage.
What
I had to
storage
get a
for what?
storage unit to put my things in. I was afraid they were going to be trashed, so I went back the following day with the police to get my things.
All right, Miss Crawford, first of all, where is Dream Boy?
Your Honor,
Where is he?
he's at work.
Got a job?
Yes, ma'am.
When did he get a job?
He was employed the day after she left. She left on a Sunday. He went to work that Monday.
Did he send her any money?
The arrangements to pay her back was between her and I.
So did you send her any money?
I tried to contact her, Your Honor. She never returned my phone calls. She never, after September 29th was the last time I spoke to her on the phone when she called me at work. I said, "Call me next week, I will make arrangements." She never bothered calling me back. She never left me a forwarding address. I tried on 3 separate occasions.
Did you feel badly about it?
Yeah, I felt horrible. We were best friends for 8 years. I mean, honestly, I really did not know this was going to happen.
Let me ask you this question. Tom clearly, when she was living there, was not employed and was home a good deal of the time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long was it that he wasn't employed full-time, that you were supporting him?
Your Honor, I wasn't supporting him.
Who
but
was?
He had part-time work.
Not
and
when she
it was about
there.
3 months total.
So it was
but
about
I was
3
not
months.
supporting him. He was drawing off his savings.
So he had savings?
Yeah.
So why didn't he put in the money for his share of the security deposit from his savings instead of asking a stranger for it?
I asked her for it, Your Honor, because we were friends.
But that's not fair. If you have a boyfriend who's got savings, why should you ask her to dip into her meager savings to pay for him? Did you know that Tom had savings?
I did not know that.
Did Tom know that you asked her for money?
Yes, ma'am, he did.
How old is he?
26.
Does he have children?
Yes, ma'am, he does.
How many?
2.
How did I know that? Do you have children?
No, I don't.
How old are you?
28.
Mm-hmm. Where are Tom's children?
His wife and he have joint custody. They're with their mother most of the time.
Was he sending support for his children?
Yes, he was.
When he wasn't working?
Yes, he was. He was drawing it out of his savings.
I don't believe that. Miss Crawford, how long have you been with Tom?
About 6 months.
Keep your eyes open.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
All right, there is no question. I believe her that you threw her out of the house. According to your own answer, you pretty much say, I had to make a choice. Tom or her. I mean, you go through a lot of things here when you say, well, she didn't follow the rules and everything else. But I think that you know that you owe her this money. It's clear to me that your boyfriend clearly didn't like sharing his home with someone who was disapproving of the way he was behaving, especially the way he was treating you. You probably did things that irritated Tom and that he's had a sense from the way you were acting that you were disapproving. So I can understand him not particularly liking you.
So can I.
But you can't throw her out of the house. You made that choice, so now you got to pay her. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount requested in the complaint, which is $1,782. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
The night they threw me out, she let him call me every name in the book, treat me like a total and all she could do was stand there and let him abuse me after 8 years of friendship. She totally destroyed it. It made me feel horrible. It breaks my heart, but as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's over, and I don't care to ever see her again.
I wouldn't pour water on her. She was standing next to me on fire.
Phillips, a 45-year-old nursing assistant from Chicago, is suing his co-worker Tina Nance. Henry says he filed this lawsuit after getting into a heated argument with Tina over her pet cockatoo.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise.
Your Honor, this is case number 165 on the calendar in the matter of Phillips versus Nance. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Am I correct, Mr. Phillips, that you and the defendant worked together?
Fortunately, no, Your Honor.
Did you work together?
No.
Well, you work in I couldn't quite figure that out from this complaint. You work in a hospital.
Correct, Your Honor. I am a practitioner RN from Ohio, and I was supposed to do 11 to 7.
Shh. You are a nurse.
Right.
In a hospital.
Right.
What kind of a hospital?
Rehab. Rehabilitation.
Psychiatric rehabilitation?
Alzheimer's, broken body parts, etc.
Do you work in that hospital?
No, ma'am.
Were you a patient in that hospital?
No, ma'am.
Well, how did you come to be in the hospital with him?
I was not at a hospital. Where he was where I was.
Just a second. This is, hey.
Order.
We worked on
Can we
different...
start over?
Okay.
All right, we're going to start over. Mr.
Okay.
Phillips.
Yes.
You and the defendant work at the same facility.
Unfortunately...
The answer is yes or no?
At that particular time, yes.
All right.
But different wings, Your Honor.
Okay, different wings.
Yes.
And you had an argument with her.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
So then why are you here, sir?
I am here because the fact that on my break, I had to go through her unit to get to the foyer, or let's say get to the patio for a cigarette. And earlier that day, I had been hearing the noise of a cat, and I thought the zoo had came in for the older people. And when I went to her wing, I noticed there was a cockatiel there. And I
cockatiel, you mean a bird?
Yes. And I complimented the bird. She wasn't present at the time when I made the compliment.
What did you say about the bird?
How pretty the bird is, how old the bird is, how big he is.
Who had the bird?
There was another employee who had the bird on their shoulder.
Now, this is a large white bird?
Yes, yes. And upon my giving compliments, this lady came out of nowhere, the defendant came out of nowhere, cursing and swearing, and telling me it wasn't a cockatiel, it was a cockatoo, and I should pronounce my words correctly, and she was ballistic. She went ballistic, Your Honor. And
just a second. Let me understand this. You said, what a nice cockatiel.
Yes.
And what you're telling me is she came out of nowhere and was angry because the bird, she said, was a cockatoo.
Right, right. And so I continued to go outside for my cigarette break. Oh, let's say a matter of minutes, between 2 and 3 minutes, this lady came out cursing, swearing, ballistic again. I put the cigarette out, went back onto my unit, and a couple of...
Without telling me the swear words, because I've heard them all, what was the gist of what she was saying to you?
That she just didn't want... She just She just didn't like me.
Had you ever seen her before?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
No.
So then you put out your cigarette, you went back to your unit.
Yes.
And what happened next?
Later on, maybe an hour or so, the supervisor called. And the lady who I was working with, she called me and told me that the supervisor wanted to speak to me over the phone. When I got to the nurse's station, I got the phone call. The nurse was telling me that this lady had called her and told her that I had cursed her out, that I had threatened her, that I had made her life miserable, her time there miserable, and not to go in that area again if I can avoid it. Go around for your next cigarette. So I said, fine, no problem. But I don't know who you're talking about, because she tried to describe the lady to me. I did not know her, so it was hard to describe her to me. But when I realized it was over the bird, I knew who the person was involved. And so between 9 o'clock and 10:30, I went on my second break. And I went around like I had been asked to. When I did, I noticed she, with this fella here, they came on the grounds. This guy came on the grounds with a sleeveless shirt on and short pants. He passed security and 3 units to come looking for me. She brought him to my unit, introduced him to the RNs who were on the unit as her son. Some told me that they were afraid that something was...
Don't tell me what they told you. She introduced them as her son.
Okay.
Tell me what happened with you.
And when after, at 11 o'clock is the end of the shift. Upon my leaving, he and 4 more men got out of a car. He approached me, and he said to me, and I quote, "Man, what is this I heard you saying to my mother? Why are you giving my mother a hard time? My mother, you say you're gonna rape my mother?" And I looked at him like he was crazy. I said, "Look at her. Look at me. What do I want with that?" And I left it at that. And I said, "I can't believe this." I immediately went back into the hospital. I asked the supervisor who I had talked to earlier to call the Evergreen Police Department. She told me, "You call them yourself." Now, by the way, I didn't make it clear, I am agency. I am agency. That means I go wherever I'm needed.
So you don't work for the hospital, you
No.
work for an independent... You work for an independent agency, and they send you to various locations.
Yes, because I work for various hospitals.
So the hospital said to you, "Listen, you're not our responsibility. If you have a problem, you call yourself to the police."
Right. She really set it out of fright, Your Honor.
So you called the police, sir?
Yes, I went to the nurse's station, and I called the police. Immediately, there was 2 squad cars and a paddy wagon.
Just a second. Is that what happened? Is that what you're suing about?
No, I am suing, Your Honor, for... Excuse me for just a minute, Your Honor.
Is that the incident that you're suing over, sir?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Have you told me about the incident now?
Yes, and here's you have a copy of the police report?
I don't have a copy of the police report, sir. I will take a copy of the police report.
This is the police report, and it states there...
Don't tell me what it states. I can read. What I'm asking you, sir, is have you concluded what the argument was with,
Your Honor, to be honest with you...
the defendant on that day? Because I have...
No, Your Honor. No, I did not. Because, like I said earlier, I do not know this lady, nor do I wish to be affiliated with this lady in any way, shape, or form. And when she told lies, I felt that it was slander. And she herself, it is a known fact that they... It's a known fact that they...
You're suing her for slander, Mr. Phillips.
Yes,
We've got to cut this short, sir.
Yes.
You're suing her for slander. And the slander you say is when she told her son or somebody else that you were going to rape her.
Right, and I also have...
Is that right so far?
Yes, and
Is there any other slander that you're suing her for? Yes or no?
No, I'm not. No other slanders, but the violation of my civil right was denied. There was an unlawful weapon on the premises, which she had. She was intoxicated as well.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And if I'd have cursed him out, you'd have heard it over here in California, all the way from Chicago.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nursing assistant Tina Nance says she was worried for her safety when her coworker, 45-year-old Henry Phillips, picked a fight with her over her pet cockatoo.
Now you want to tell me your version of what happened, madam?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
I work at Advocate Transitional Care Center. I am a CNA, the same thing he is, which is a certified nursing assistant.
How long have you been
I have
working
been
there?
there 10 years. I work in the Alzheimer dementia wing. On this date in question, my daughter had her cockatoo. She is a Moluccan cockatoo, okay? He comes back in my wing where I worked in the 600 wing. He was supposed to be in the 500 wing. He come back there to tell me this was not a cockatoo, it was a cockatiel. I said, excuse me, I think I know what this bird is. It upset him and he continued to argue with me that this was a cockatiel and not a cockatoo. So he explained to me that a cockatiel is one and a cockatoo is two or more, okay? I stayed in my wing. This man kept coming through the 600 wing. He did not have to come through the 600 wing. He kept coming through there trying to agitate. This went on about 6 hours.
Tell me what he was saying when you say he was trying to agitate. What was he saying to you?
It wasn't that he said anything to me, Your Honor. He didn't say anything to me when he was coming through, but we knew he didn't have to come through the 600 wing.
Okay, go ahead.
After this went on, I talked to my supervisor, and I explained to her the situation and what this man had said.
Well, what did he say that you explained to your supervisor?
When we were outside, I went out to have a cigarette like he did. I told him if I was going to call you a liar, I would have my facts straight, which was meaning that this is not a cockatiel, it's a cockatoo. He told me to go to the UK. I don't know what that is and where it is. I tried to walk on inside. He told me he was going to mess me up. He was waiting for me. I went in, I talked to the supervisor, I explained to her what had happened and what had been said. I went back to my unit. He continued to come through there so much that my charge nurse called the supervisor and talked to her and told her that he continually come back there to the 600 wing. He was up there in the 500 wing. You could hear everything he was saying from up in the 500 wing. And he kept coming through there. I ignored him. My charge nurse asked that he not come through there again. It was shorter for him to go through his own wing than to be coming through my wing. This man filed a report. In the police report, and I have a copy of it too, there is nothing in there about I told my son that he tried to rape me. He also said in the report, it's in black and white, that I was high or drunk, smelling of alcohol, and was a menace to the institution and should be released. Now, I'd never seen this man one day in my life, to my knowledge, Your Honor. I would not approach somebody not knowing anybody. This man came up to me and just went out of the blue sky trying to tip. If she was a crocodiliac, it wasn't his business. He'd have no business back there in my wing trying to tell me what I was doing. Then this man goes and files a police report. Then he goes and tried to sue me. Nothing in that police report says anything, okay, about a rape. Nothing says anything about a weapon. I had no weapon. It seems to me, since you called the police and you thought I had the weapon, that'd been the first thing you told him. So that would have been in the police report. That was not there, okay? Then he said that I'm drunk. That is not in the police report. So all of a sudden, a day or two later, you go and sue somebody, you come up with some more information that wasn't even there.
I listened to you. Did I listen to you? What's your name?
Michael Johnson.
What were you doing in the hospital that day?
My mother called me, told me that she had gotten into an argument.
Look at me when you talk.
She had gotten into an argument with a man there. She told me that she thought she would be okay, but she wasn't sure because he had threatened to see her later on after work. So I came up there later around the time that she gets off of work, make sure that she's gonna get home safe. I'm standing outside talking to another woman that works there, right? He had come outside the building. Still, I had known that this was the person that she even, you know, was saying that she was scared of. And he walked up to the lady that I was talking to and mentioned to her, did you hear this lady earlier arguing, talking about the bird is this, but it's that? I don't know what either one is.
And you don't care?
Know, no, not really.
Me neither.
And so she said, who? And he told her name, Tina. And she said, Tina in 600? Then that's when I said, well, Tina, well, that's my mother. What's going on, y'all? Y'all having a problem? He looked at me like I turned into a big monster, dropped his bags, ran inside the building, right? She standing outside at the time, so I'm talking to her, and she was like, well, yeah, he was the man, he was threatening, but I'm gonna be all right. And a couple seconds later, police pulled up like...
All right, why don't you sit down? I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Something I don't understand.
Yes.
Why did you get so aggravated because he called the bird a cockatiel and it was a cockatoo? Why did you get so aggravated?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I hope that I am never put in a hospital by my children and have to deal with two people like you.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Co-workers Tina Nance and Henry Phillips are before Judge Judy because of a fight they got into on the job. They claim the argument started over Tina's pet bird.
Why did you get so aggravated because he called the bird a cockatiel and it was a cockatoo? Why did you get so aggravated?
I wasn't aggravated at that time.
You said you went over and corrected him and said it's a cockatoo.
This was hours later after we started hearing him up front in the 500 wing, babbling on about this bird, him constantly coming through the 600 wing. You know, this was later on after this had started. I wasn't so much upset about whether he knew what he was talking about in the beginning, but he was sending people. He sent a girl that was working up there in the front, back there to come tell me that he's constantly going on with this is a cockatoo.
Miss Nance, put your hand down, sir. What I'm asking you is, if I believe what you tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Then you would agree that there's something wrong with him upstairs, right?
Yes.
So why would you have any confrontation with him at all? Why would you say a word to him? You did. You clearly did. You went out there, you had a cigarette when he was out there. You engaged him. If what you're telling me is accurate, and you're a nurse who's supposed to handle people who have psychiatric problems, why would you get involved with somebody whose behavior was nutty? Why?
What I tried to do was keep the situation from being explosive. I left him alone. He kept coming to me.
No, you were confrontational. You corrected him.
In the beginning, yes.
In the beginning,
okay.
At all. All right, now, I'm going to ask you the same question,
yes,
sir.
Your Honor.
Just listen to me. You've described conduct to me on the part of Miss Nance that appears to be a little bit nutty.
Yes.
Right? I mean, to get so excited about whether a bird is a cockatiel or a cockatoo or a parrot or a chipmunk, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, but you entered into this discourse with this lady, and I don't understand why, being a professional nurse in a psychiatric environment, you didn't just say,
Your Honor,
this is somebody I don't want to deal with.
Like I told you prior, I don't know the woman, do not wish to know the woman in any fashion. I paid many compliments. I don't feel that this woman had to act the way she did to pay a compliment. I don't think my life or any verbal abuse should be there when I make a compliment.
What compliment?
On the bird.
You mean that the bird was a nice cockatiel?
Yes, right. And I have made many compliments. No one has ever tried to take my head off.
All right, listen, I'm ready. Ready?
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Phillips, I know that this was an egregious time for you, that it was a very unpleasant day, but not every unpleasant day results in a court suit and should result in taking up time with a court. I don't find that there was any slander that was proven, but don't put your hand down. You talked in your complaint about rape. I didn't hear anything about rape. I heard about messing you up or better watch out. I'm not even sure that that happened. All I can tell you is what I hear from both of you people is that I hope that I am never put in a hospital by my children and have to deal with two people like you. This case is dismissed, that's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Judy. Step out.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Blood was spilled the night a bail bondsman caught up with a suspect.
You've been in jail before, you've been arrested before, you've had bond posted before. You know the drill.
Real people. Judge Judy.
As you can see, the lady is an habitual liar.
You know, I have nothing to say to an illiterate, ignorant person like him. I don't have time to play games. When I want to play, I play with my grandbabies. I don't have time for him.
Versus Coppola. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. West, you want the engagement ring back after 4 years.
Yes.
What took you so long?
We were supposed to get married in '95.
Yes.
And so it took time. She told me we should get back. We had an agreement. We got together a couple times.
You were supposed to get married.
Yes.
Who broke the engagement?
She did.
Is that correct?
That's incorrect, Your Honor. There was a postponement. We postponed the wedding. It was something we
Well,
both...
somebody had to say, I think we ought to postpone the wedding. Who said that?
We both did, Your Honor.
She did.
We both seen premarital counselors, and we were advised by the counselors that the problems we were having were not going to change within 1 month's time. We were
so
supposed
you
to be...
postponed the wedding?
That's correct.
Let's say you postponed the wedding. According to your complaint, sir, despite the fact that you postponed the wedding, I found it odd that you went on your honeymoon.
Yes. Everything was paid for. Everything was paid for.
So you figured you might as well?
Yeah, we were staying together. We weren't breaking up. We just postponed the wedding.
Okay. You are married to someone else?
That's correct. Almost 1 year next month.
Tell me, Mr. West, she's married for almost a year to somebody else. What took you so long to get around to asking for the ring back?
It's been asked for back since the beginning. It's been told it would be given back. It would be given back. We get together. It wasn't given back. I seen her in January of this year. It wasn't given back then. She might have been married, but still saw her at her apartment.
It was December. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ultimately, after you were seeing each other, after the wedding was initially postponed, you both decided, I assume, that this was not a relationship that should result in a marriage.
Yes.
Was that a mutual decision?
No, that was her again.
You didn't have a clue?
Your Honor?
You didn't have a clue?
No, I didn't. No. We had problems, but I didn't think, no, I didn't.
If you listen to me, sir, if you have problems before you're married, you're supposed to think about whether or not these are going to get better. Usually they get worse, right? Usually the best time you're supposed to have is when you're courting and engaged and it's supposed to be light and fun. The problems are usually after you get married, the little frustrations that you have. So you're not married now, are you?
No.
Just think about that for next time. It's just good advice. I won't charge you for it. He gave you the ring in anticipation of getting married.
That's correct.
Why isn't he entitled to his ring back? Where is the ring, by the way?
It's not in my possession. I took it back to the jewelry store where it was bought from.
You took it back to the jewelry store?
That's correct. That is correct.
When?
In '95, after we broke up, officially broke up.
Yes?
Yes, and I took it back. I did not want it, and I was never asked for it back. Did not want it.
Well, when you gave it back to them, did you just say, here's the ring, I don't want it anymore?
No, I took it back to the jewelry store.
Did you get the money?
Yes.
Oh.
Your Honor, let me just explain one thing, Your Honor.
Shh.
Order. Can I explain one thing, please?
Sure.
I purchased many of gifts from Mr. West, appliances such as refrigerators, televisions, VCRs, air conditioners. etc. I'm paying them for all my credit cards today, presently, still paying for them. I never asked for anything back. That was portrait of being married as well.
What about Mr. West? Did he have any expenditure of money as a result of this wedding? According to him, he did.
No, that's incorrect as well. Myself and my mother and Mr. West's mother did all of the arrangements. We had a joint checking account, which we both paid for deposits on the wedding. That was not anything he did solely on his own.
No, but you did it so. You
We
told me
did it
that you did
together,
it together.
so we both took a loss,
Okay,
Your
that
Honor.
was
We both took a
until
loss.
the time we broke up. It was a joint checking account and everything, but I've been paying. We've been broken up now for two and a half years. I've been paying since then. I'm still paying on the wedding, the $5,000 loan,
And I'm still
the
paying for gifts that
$3,500
I've
credit
given
card.
him in his home that he still has, Your
Okay,
Honor.
well,
Refrigerators.
listen to me. There's a difference between a gift.
That's what this was.
Listen to me.
Okay.
There's a difference between a gift and an engagement ring. An engagement ring is a gift that's given in contemplation of two people getting married. And that's different from a refrigerator or an air conditioner or a coffee pot or anything else. It's different. So then let's get to the answer to the question that I asked you before. You brought the ring back to the jeweler.
That's correct.
Mr. West, how much did you pay for the ring?
$33.27.
And you brought the ring back to the same jeweler where it had been purchased.
That
And
is
how
correct.
much money did you get for the ring?
$2,100, Your Honor.
Do you have the receipt for the
Yes,
jeweler
I
from
do.
that? Could I
It's
have
right
it, please?
And that was in October, Your Honor.
Did you ever tell Mr. West that you would give him back the ring?
Nope, he never asked for it.
They told me they were giving back the ring when I gave them back the stuff from the apartment. She came and emptied out the apartment.
That is incorrect as well.
She came and emptied out the apartment. My landlord at the time,
What did she take out of the apartment?
everything, all the gifts that I did purchase for her, they were rightfully hers, so I
Like
let them
what?
take her. Precious moments,
That's
boxes,
it.
Dishes,
They were
everything
mine,
she wanted.
Your Honor. Okay.
Hey.
They were gifts, so they were hers, so I let her take them. But the agreement was she was going to give me the ring that day. She went back out in the car with her mother, decided she was not going to give the ring back to me. And I closed the door and said she couldn't come in. My name was on a leash, and then she couldn't have any more until I got it. So she stood out there with the cellular phone that we purchased together and said if I did not let her in and get the rest of the stuff, she was going to pop a fever blister that she got in Jamaica and say I punched her in the face if I didn't let her take it.
Your Honor.
So that's what I did. I opened the door, I let her take the rest of her stuff, and that was it. That's part of the reason why it took so long, because this is what I had to go through.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He called me an N lover is what he called me. So you tell me what it's about.
And later today,
That's usually cheap and easy to make a new baby. It doesn't cost you very much, sometimes just a nice romantic dinner, right?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 26-year-old Timothy West is suing his former fiancée, Barbie Coppola, because she refused to return the ring. Barbie says that Timothy is a racist and is only suing her now because she's involved with a Jamaican.
Did you go to the house at any time to retrieve any property?
Yes, I did.
And did you go there with your mother?
Yes, I did. This is my mom right here.
Mm-hmm. Step up. Tell me your name.
Hi, Gwen Coppola.
Ms. Coppola, you remember going with your daughter to
Oh,
the
yes,
apartment
I
that you
do.
shared with the plaintiff?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell me what kind of a vehicle were you driving?
My car, a white Buick LeSabre.
And in that
Oh,
car...
no.
That was incorrect. It was my
No,
car
I'm
that I paid
sorry.
for with the loan for the wedding.
Wrong. We were in Barbie's.
We were in an Audi.
In an Audi.
That's
I'm
correct.
sorry.
Okay. And what did you put in the Audi?
2 bags of precious moments.
What's precious moments?
They were collector's
Figurines.
figurine.
That's what I collect, and they were
And
purchased.
I bought the figurines for her.
90% of them.
I'm speaking to your mother.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And some things that, when my mom died, had given to Barbie. And that's what Barbie walked out of the apartment with.
Did you ever have, Ms. Coppola, any discussion with your daughter about the engagement ring?
No.
Ms. Coppola, I'm going to ask you that
Oh, you
question
mean-
again. Let's try
Excuse me.
it just a second. Let's try, take a deep breath. Let's try it one more time. Did you ever have a discussion with your
Yes.
daughter about the engagement
Yes.
ring? All right. At the time that she broke up with the plaintiff, tell me about the discussion you had with your daughter about the ring.
The time that she broke up with him?
Yes.
No. Not when she broke up with him. Barbie asked me a year later, maybe less than a year later, did I think it was right for her to sell the ring because she needed money at the time? And I said, sure. I think it's right that you should sell it. Absolutely.
Why did you think it was right that she should sell it?
That was the only possession that she came out of this whole...
Besides diamond earrings, diamond bracelets, diamond everything.
Mr. West.
Sorry.
That was what she came out of this whole relationship with. Besides ulcers and heartache.
Well, your daughter was the one who I assume ultimately decided that, that this was not a marriage that should take place. She married shortly, within a year after this breakup. You're the present husband?
Yes, Mom.
And you met him in Jamaica?
That's correct.
According to your answer. And also, according to your complaint, the defendant had visited Jamaica several times during your engagement. Is that right?
That's true.
Is that right? Alone?
Alone. With her sister and her sister's husband.
No,
Just a
no way.
second.
My
Is that what-
oldest daughter is married to a Jamaican.
Just a second.
That's why we visit.
Just a second.
Okay.
But you had visited Jamaica several times with your sister.
And her husband.
And her husband.
Who's from Jamaica.
And that's where you met him.
No.
Where did you meet him?
I met him in April of '96
Where?
in Jamaica. I was with my mother and my girlfriend and her boyfriend and his mother. It was totally different, Your Honor.
Okay. Now, in April of '96, you didn't have the ring anymore, or you
No,
did?
I did not.
So you sold it before. Now, your mother says that you sold the ring because you needed money.
That's correct.
Good. Well, you had no right to sell the ring. I believe the plaintiff when he says that there was an agreement that if he gave you back the stuff, you were going to give him back the ring. In any event, whether there was that kind of an agreement or not, an engagement ring is a gift made in contemplation of getting married. And it sounds to me, even if I believe at best your story, that this was a mutual decision not to marry. Mutual.
Can I
If
say-
it is, no, say nothing. If it is a mutual decision not to marry, or if it's your decision, the woman's decision not to marry, in practically every jurisdiction, the ring goes back to the person who gave the ring, which is usually the fella. I mean, my feeling has always been different. My feeling is whoever decides that a marriage shouldn't take place, that usually is a good thing rather than a marriage taking place that's a mistake, and the ring should be returned. In any event, the ring should have been returned to him. I'm certain that at the time that the engagement was broken, he asked you for it, because it doesn't sound right to me that he wouldn't say, could I have my ring back that I paid $3,300 for? I don't believe that he didn't ask for the ring back. I don't believe that he didn't ask for the ring back, madam. You have a receipt for this ring, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I have it, please? Total value of the ring was $3,327. That's what was paid for the ring. The fact that you sold it for less is really totally irrelevant to me. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,327. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And guess
Back
what?
to you, right, please.
Good always prevails. I'm walking away from here a winner because I got the best husband a woman could ever ask for.
And now the next case.
Parties on Gonzalez versus Sandoval. Step forward, please.
27-year-old auto mechanic Gabriel Gonzalez and his girlfriend Ruby Sandoval had a baby 8 years ago. Before they broke up, he bought a crib for their son. Now he wants it back for his new girlfriend's baby. Ruby says she doesn't know where it is.
You two folks have a child together.
Yes, we do.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
How old?
He's going to be 9 on April 5th.
And I gather from your papers that you were never married. Is that
No.
right?
Correct.
Mr. Gonzalez, tell me what you're suing for and why.
Basically, Your Honor, I would like the crib back because I paid for it with my hard-earned cash. I bought it for my son. He no longer uses it, and now my fiance right here is pregnant. She's almost due any day now, any minute now, and I'd like the crib back.
After almost 9 years.
Your Honor, I repeatedly asked for the crib when we first split up, and she told me to basically go to hell. Right now, we are having a custody situation right now, and when I had my attorney and filed the paperwork for the custody, I asked her to ask the judge presiding on the case, can you please ask about the crib? And she said, no, right now is not the time.
That's a lie.
And back in '95, when we signed the stipulation because the courts were behind, I asked for the crib back again. She said, right now is not the time. Let's settle the custody issue first, and then after that, then we'll go about the crib. Well, the custody issue is now dragged on for a little over 2 years now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You each have the child half the time. Why is he paying any child support? Just because he's the man doesn't mean he pays child support.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gabriel Gonzalez wants an expensive baby crib back from his ex-girlfriend, Ruby Sandoval. She says he only wants the crib because they are in the middle of a custody battle.
Let me just understand this. You each see this child, spend substantial amounts of time with this child. Is that
Yes.
right?
Right now we have a joint stipulation. He spends 1 week, 1 full week with me and 1 full week with his mother.
How is he doing with this 1 week on and 1 week off situation?
Well, he's not doing very happy. He wants to spend his time with me. That's why I've gone back to court, because the stipulation that we signed, he was to be back and forth 1 week. He's never really liked that. He's always wanted to stay with me. I support him in his school, his sports. She doesn't bring him to his practices. She don't bring him to his games.
Mr. Gonzalez, child needs two parents.
I understand that.
And it's just very unfortunate that the two of you couldn't come to some sort of an arrangement where each of you could spend time with him. You know, this business of 1 week on and 1 week off may be nice for you, but it's usually not nice for a child. It's usually nicer if there is some sort of an arrangement where there is continuity in seeing both parents, you know. Monday through Thursday, you're with one, and then you sort of go off to the other one, rather than a total and complete break. That sometimes works when the baby is a year old or 2 years old, but as the child gets older, they usually like to have roots someplace. Has anybody tried mediation with the two of you and the boy?
We've gone to a conciliation court that didn't resolve nothing, and now, right now, as we speak, there's a custody evaluation. The evaluator has come out and talked to me. He's talked to her. There's also been a social worker involved, and we have a court date coming up in the end of October. And
is this your only child, sir?
yes, it is.
Is this your only child?
Yes.
Well, if this is your only child, and I assume that both of you are good parents, then I'm really sorry that conciliation didn't work, because it should have. Mr. Gonzalez, it's been 8 years, almost 9. How come you didn't save up for a new crib, sir?
How come I didn't save up for a new crib?
Yeah, if you made a baby. You made a new baby.
I understand that.
That's usually cheap and easy to make a new baby. That doesn't cost you very much, sometimes just a nice romantic dinner, right?
Understand.
Right? Okay?
Okay.
But you have to be prepared for a new baby.
Well,
Being prepared for a new baby doesn't mean a 9-year-old crib, Mr. Gonzalez.
Well, if you look at the crib, Your Honor, the crib did cost $800. She wasn't satisfied with just the low-budget crib. She did have to have the top-of-the-line crib.
Mr. Gonzalez, if you went to a garage sale and somebody was selling a 9-year-old crib, maybe you would spend $50 for it, sir. Maybe. Maybe. Come on. What's this really all about? Is this really all about a crib?
This is just he's just rebelling because we're going through court and all that. He's just trying to get me in whatever he possibly could. He's dragging me to courts. He has brought my son out of school several times, which is not even right. He's supposed to be in school, learning, which, you know, he takes him out of school in order to put him in the spot between him and I and just see us arguing, which I don't think that's very appropriate. The child should be in school, learning, and be away from the parents' problems.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Let me ask you another question. Do either of you pay child support to the other for this child?
He's supposed to pay child support, but he's late all the time. He hasn't paid for this month.
Is your arrangement, do you have the child 1 week and he has the child 1 week?
I have custody of my child for yes. It's alternate
Why does he
weeks.
pay child support then?
What does he pay?
Why? You each have the child half the time. Why is he paying any child support? Do you work?
I'm trying to get a job every time I get a job.
Just a second. Is the answer you work or you don't work?
At the present time, yes, I am working.
So you are supporting yourself? Do you get any kind of aid from the state?
No.
Fine. Well, I don't understand why he's paying child support then.
Your Honor, I also
Okay,
pay for
but
him to
that's
go to
not
private school, pay for his uniforms, pay for his sports activities, football, baseball.
That's
I
nice.
coach
You're his
him all
father.
year
I
round.
just was talking about child support. If you each have the child same amount of time, you should each pay your own tab when the child is with you, at least up until now. That sounds fair to me. You understand?
Yeah.
Just because he's the man doesn't mean he pays child support. Parents pay child support. Look, Mr. Gonzalez, you gonna have a new baby?
Yes, Your Honor.
Buy a new crib. This case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
He's my world to me. He's number one to me, and he always will be.
Takes them out of school. Not
We'll
very
find
important.
out. We'll find
Not
out.
very
We'll
important.
find out. You're the one that doesn't even pay for his school. Where are you going?
That's what she does.
Where are you going?
This is wasting my time.
Calendar in the matter of Trombley versus Trombley. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You two folks are married, in the process of getting a divorce. You've been married for 2 years. You have a 2-year-old child, Mrs. Trombley. I have your complaint. You are seeking $5,000 from your husband for emotional stress.
Yes, I am.
Well, I'd like you to tell me about it. You have a countersuit. I'll hear that in a minute. Go ahead.
Well, I'm really suing because he broke into my best friend's house.
I tell you,
While I was
this
there.
has nothing to do with your best friend's house. There's nothing in here in the complaint about
Well, he
your
broke
best
in there
friend's
and
house.
attacked me.
Well, let
That's
me hear
what brought
about
this
it.
complaint.
Let me hear about it. The attacking you is something else. Let me hear about the attacking you.
Once he entered the house,
Yeah.
he ran through the house and threw me against the wall and kicked me and then left with our daughter screaming in the living room.
What had precipitated this?
I hadn't come home the night before because
Why not?
Because I was afraid of getting hit. And when I did come home in the morning, he raised his hand to me, and if he hadn't seen my friend, he would have hit me.
That's untrue. There was no threat of violence of her coming home at any point ever. She was with her friend partying late into the night.
He says you do drugs, Mrs. Trombley, and that you depleted the bank account of your family, took checks out, forged checks, ran up bills, forced them into bankruptcy, all because you were doing drugs and staying out, partying with your friends, etc. Any of that true?
Some of it's true.
What's true?
I do have a past history of drug abuse.
We're not talking about past. We're talking about current.
No, I don't.
What makes you think she has a drug problem?
Oh, I have all kinds of ample evidence to prove that she has a drug problem. Just as of July 18th, I got a call from Burbank Police Department who had just arrested a drug dealer, stating that he had my calling card. I have here 12 pages of the calls that this man made with my calling card. Who was given?
Who is this man?
This man's name is nicknamed Morbid.
You know that person?
Yes, I do.
Well, what does he do for a living?
He deals drugs, right, Jen? He deals drugs.
What does he do for a living?
He doesn't really do much for a living.
He deals drugs. And this is Jen's main drug dealer. This is a man that she went to Mexico with.
While you were married?
What? Last month.
Is that right?
Yes.
Terrific.
My wife disappeared for 3 days on the premise that she was going to look for jobs. At 2 p.m., with no hassle, no fighting, we had made love in the morning. At 2 p.m., she said, I'm on my way to go put some applications in. I did not see my wife for 3 days, at which she had taken both sets of our car keys and left me in the care of our daughter. I have a full-time job. I had to take 3 days off from work. On the third day, risking financial ruin and losing my job, I had to take my 2-year-old daughter to work with me. No calls from my wife.
Does that sound familiar to you, Miss Trombley?
Yes, that's all true. And it was all because I was afraid to come home because he was hitting me.
Afraid to come home, so she takes a vacation with a drug dealer to Tijuana, Mexico.
Mr. Trombley,
Order.
Let me tell you this, sir. Let me tell you this. I read your answer to her complaint, and her complaint is nonsense. I don't know whether you hit her when you got into the house.
I'll explain to you exactly the events preceding that incident.
Your Honor, we have 2 separate police reports for domestic violence.
We have
and a
one
restraining order
police
that was
report.
put on against him.
Was there
for
ever a
my
trial
protection.
on that restraining order?
Yes, there was.
And what happened to it?
And what happened to it?
Today, that case was settled and dropped, plead out.
What do you mean, settle, drop, plead out? What does that mean?
I pleaded no contest to 1 count of battery.
Does that have to do with this incident?
It has to do with the incident where I pushed my wife away from a front door for not taking our personal life into a hallway.
Was that at her friend's house? Just
Yes.
a second.
Yes.
This is the incident at the friend's house.
Yes, let me...
Let me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll ask you to fill in so that there is some semblance here. According to your answer, she had gone over to her friend Lori's house, right? And this was after she had disappeared for a few days.
No, that's...
She had already disappeared. There were periods of time, according to your answer, sir, that she had left you in care to care for your daughter.
Yes.
And you were afraid that when she went to Lori's house and didn't come home right away, that she was going to do it again.
Well, let me explain a little bit earlier in the evening. It was that very morning that I was late for work. My wife came home at 6:30, where I would have had to have left at 10 of 6 to make it to work. She knows this. We've had many, many fights about it. It's when she showed up with Lori, I did go like this in anger, not to hit her, but just as a show. I'm this angry. How could you do this to me again? That very night, when I came home from work, Lori and Jen and Aubrey were there in the house. They said, we're going to take Aubrey out and get some shoes. They left. They came back at, at 7:30 p.m. while I was watching TV. My daughter comes through the front door crying, but my wife did not come through the door. I opened up the front door, and my wife was at the bottom of the stairs and says to me, I'm going to the car for a minute. 5 minutes later, she didn't come back from the car, and the car was gone. It's at that time that I assumed she probably went back over to Lori's. I drove over there with my daughter, and that's where she was.
Well,
I found
would've came in the
that was
house
kind of
if you
peculiar.
weren't screaming your head off.
I wasn't
Mr.
screaming at
Trumbley,
anything.
Mr. Trumbley.
Yes. May I continue?
No. Because while I can smell a drug problem from at least 15 feet away, and she has a drug problem.
Yes, that's true.
Based upon my assessment of her demeanor and based upon the things that she has said to me so far, I have some trouble with your response. And let me tell you why, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm just a hardworking guy. I have no record. I've never been expelled from school. I'm nothing but a decent guy that was raised the right way.
And later today,
You
So
came
that
in
means-
with your girlfriend, Christina,
Girlfriend?
who now lives with you,
Well,
who
I'm going to
is-
have him live with
who
me?
is your lover. Admit it, okay?
Okay.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Russell Trombley denies his wife Jennifer's allegations of abuse and claims she's guilty of neglecting their daughter.
You have a 2-year-old daughter. You say you know your wife has a current drug problem.
Yes.
If your wife has a current drug problem, I don't care what you have to do, you make sure that your wife is never left in charge of your child. You didn't do that. What you wanted her to do was to be around to take care of your daughter. Just a second. And I don't care if you have to get a babysitter. I don't care if you have to quit your job. I don't care what you have to do. You do not leave a drug user in charge of a 2-year-old baby, and I don't care if the drug user is your wife. Number one. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Number two. According to your answer, sir, you went over to the house, to this Lori's house, because you didn't want to be in the position again of having to look for somebody to take care of your daughter when you had to go to work the next morning and you had an early morning call. Is that right?
Yes. We've exhausted all of our daycare issues. My wife left our daycare with a $300 bill that we owed them.
Sir.
We had no one else. We have no
Sir,
relatives here.
So let me tell you this. There are many people, unfortunately, in your position whose mate, whether it be a husband or a wife, has a drug addiction problem. You're supposed to try to be supportive of each other if you can, but at that point, there is only one innocent. And that innocent is a child, especially a 2-year-old child that cannot protect herself. So at that point, you can't worry about her anymore. She's got a drug problem and hangs around with Mork or whatever his name is,
Morbid.
Dork. Those are the kind of people that you hang around with if you got a drug problem.
That's all she hangs out with.
Drug dealers.
All drug dealers. That's
Fine.
everybody she knows.
Well, then, sir, if you allow your daughter to hang around with her and to hang around with drug dealers, then you are as guilty of neglect as she is. Do you understand me? In my eyes.
With all due respect, Judge, these are events that have only come to my knowledge within the last couple of months. All of these things have been hidden and lied about.
Sir, during that time, during that couple of month period, you still left your daughter in your wife's care.
But I was only doing that on the premise that she was over at her friend's house. I didn't know that there was drugs involved at that night.
You can't have it both ways. We understand each other. You cannot have it both ways.
There was not at any point that I felt my daughter was in danger from my
I'm
wife.
telling you that it's not true. What I'm telling you is, if you are mated to a drug user who cavorts with other drug users and abusers and dealers, you are a neglectful parent if you leave a 2-year-old child with her.
I was doing everything I could.
All right.
ma'am.
So, let me get to your cross complaint because I'm going to take care of this nonsense right away. You say that she spent a lot of your family money?
She spent all of our money.
Good. That's what happens. It's a very good idea for you to get out of this marriage, to take charge of your daughter, and to start building a life with her, if that's what you think that you can do. Do you understand?
Yeah, that's everything I'm seeking and aiming for. But
very good.
These are the events that handle our lives every day, though. While I'm trying to litigate this, I am being forced to move out of California, forced to give up my dreams, forced to give up my career.
That's very sad. You made a mistake. That's what happens when people make a mistake.
I made a grand mistake, and my
That's what happens when you make a mistake.
I understand that.
Good.
But understand, Judge, that I have pleaded and begged my wife to get drug counseling, to stop fraternizing with these people.
This case is dismissed. The counterclaim is dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right.
I want to get as far away from this woman as I can. I believe she's nothing but pure evil and will not help herself. I don't think there's any saving her.
And now the next case.
Parties on Silvas versus Boga. Step forward.
70-year-old Frank Silvas is suing 33-year-old Christina Boger, a woman he says was his lover and bride-to-be. According to Frank, when their plans to move in together fell through, Christina kept his furniture. But Christina says she and Frank were never boyfriend and girlfriend, and the furniture was a gift.
Mr. Silvas, according to your papers, sir, you are a recent widower.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were married to your wife for 45 years?
No, 41.
41 years. Shortly after her death, you met the defendant.
Right, but 18 months after.
And she was selling some sort of electrical
Well, the
bed?
night before I met her, somebody called the house was to make an appointment to sell mattresses. And I told the gentleman, says, I'm not going to buy one. He said, well, we got a new sales person. He didn't tell me it was a male or a female, you know.
Cut to the chase.
Okay.
She came to sell you a new mattress.
Right.
And according to your complaint, sold you a lot more.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I slept with her about three or four different times. In fact, we went to Laughlin. First time we went to Laughlin.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 70-year-old Frank Silvas is suing 33-year-old Christina Boger because he claims she kept his furniture when their romance ended.
Over the course of several months,
Almost a year.
you gave her a lot of money.
Right.
According to your papers, gave her loans of over $30,000.
Right.
But you know that you can't get that here.
Right.
What you're suing for here is a return of your furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yes,
tell
Your Honor.
me how she came to have your furniture in her possession.
Okay, when her roommate moved out, I was supposed to, move in, see? So, I says, well, we'll take my furniture up there to sell my house. Then she kept putting the dates off,
What dates?
That I was supposed to move in. But prior to that, Your Honor, she said she would marry me.
Did you ask her to marry you?
Yes, and she kept putting that off.
Okay. So you asked her to marry you. When did you ask her to marry you?
Before the first of the year, first time.
And what did she say?
She says, I don't know you that good, Just wait a while.
So what happened? The romance is clearly over.
Well, I got evidence right here. that really turned me off, she came into my house, took 2 blank checks and forged them. One for 1,000, one for 350. Then she came back into the house and grabbed those 2 checks and burned them up. That's what she told me. She burned them. But I got copies from the bank. I got the police report on each one of them.
When do you say she did this?
I didn't find out about it till May, actually, Your Honor, when I got my bank statements.
How come he gave you this money?
Well,
I assume you're going to tell me he gave you the money.
Yes, he plays a victim well. He was always there to be very helpful to me, and was there to volunteer anytime I needed something. We started up a business together. This money that he's talking about that he lent to me was based on this business we started together, and any money that he gave me was to help me get this business up and going, and he was, in return, got a percentage of this business.
Just a second, did he get anything in return?
Yes, when he was doing his job.
Just a minute, what did he get in return?
He got a percentage of the business, which was 10%.
How much does that translate to in cash?
About $600-700 in cash.
So he invested thousands and he got $600-700.
Let me explain something though. He stopped doing the business, and ultimately the business fell. It's not even in existence now because he wouldn't give me the information so I can continue to run this business. He kept it.
He gave you a lot of money, madam. I have checks here, a lot of money.
Okay.
A lot.
Your Honor, he's 69 years old. I'm 30. This man's got 45 years on me. He decides to give me money or do what he decides to do. You think he'd have... It's all been his choice. It's all been his choice from the beginning to do these things. Frank did everything.
Did you at any time discuss with him getting married?
No, he discussed it with me.
When for the first time?
He asked me to marry him so many times, I couldn't tell you. It was literally the first time, 60 days after I knew him, was the first time he asked me to marry him.
And what did you say to him?
I said, no, I don't know you well enough. And he was a heavy drinker, and I have a baby, and there's a big age difference. And I told him, I said, no, I think
a big age difference is 40 years. You know, a big age difference is 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. 40 years is a big age difference. Did you ever say to him, no, sir, you're too old and I'm not going to be involved with you romantically?
I never said he was too old. The age difference was a concern, but it was his drinking that was more of a concern to me.
But that didn't stop you from taking money from him.
For the business, we were business partners.
I'm not talking about the business. So far, the business he got a couple $100 from, if I believe you, and he put in thousands according to these checks. And it's not made out to a business. It's made out directly to you, and you cash the checks. It's not made out to a business account. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. But I'm telling you now, don't piddle on my leg and tell me it's raining, madam. I'm too smart for you. Do you understand? Do you understand? If you took money from him because he was prepared to give it to you and you were prepared to take it, that's one thing. He's not suing you for the money. Yet. So don't give me any baloney about business. Business checks, if they're made to a business, they're put in a business name. Your business, I assume, had a name. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of the business?
Well, we're Banks and Associates.
So if he was lending money to the business, it would have been business checks, not payable to you.
Okay, when I came to him and discussed certain things with him, he was there to help me. He said, whatever you need, I'm here to help you. I asked him what he wanted in return. He said, just to be close to you, to be your friend. And I said that was fine. He could write me a check, and I could do whatever I wanted with it if he chose to give it to me.
Right, so you used them. Now, let's talk about the furniture.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I want to know if the following things are in your home, madam. Butcher block.
Pardon me?
Show this to her, please. Are those things in your home?
Yes, they are.
Good. Can I have it, please? Court will draft an order that within 3 days of today, all those items will be picked up and returned to Mr. Silvas. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And they better be in the same condition that they were when he gave them to you. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And on the next Judge Judy.
Was
you
in my
used
driveway.
this guy, okay? He was in love
Right.
with you, and you used
I
him.
used him, right?
Okay?
But you'll never tell.
And you had
guys,
your lover move in
You're right.
with
You know what? You're all right.
Whose
This
bed are
report-
you sleeping in, Christina?
This has nothing. This
Okay.
doesn't. My God, you
That's
guys
all I
are.
wanna
You guys
say.
are petty.
I slept with her about three or four different times. In fact, we went to Laughlin. First time we went to Laughlin.
Judge, you may be seated.
All right, let me understand this case. Miss Spahn, this young man babysat for you, for your children.
Yes.
A couple of years ago.
Yes.
And at that time, he wasn't doing so well. You didn't know it at the time?
No, I did not.
But you had a drug problem,
Yes, I did.
and you had been involved in a series of criminal activity
That
that
is
you're not
correct.
proud of now, I understand.
That is correct.
You're his mother.
Yes, I am.
While he was babysitting for you, he stole some money.
Yes, he did.
And he was arrested and prosecuted.
Correct.
What was your sentence?
I got theft charges. I was ordered to pay restitution in the amount that she had requested.
How much was that?
It was $900, I believe, and it ended up being $1,200 after all of the fees and everything, all the victim assistance, all of that. And I paid that in full, and I was ordered to go on to probation. I finished all my probation stuff. I did my community service, paid all my restitution.
What kind of community service did you have to do?
Weekend work crew. I'd have to go up into the mountains and dig trails and stuff, and kind of.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Spahn, you found out that there was more money taken that was originally either reported or somehow the paperwork, the police paperwork,
Yes.
Was lost.
It was not in the actual record, the original record, this is the original report, and this is the second report, which we did file within the statute of limitations, that showed the additional $900 was missing. Now, it was $1,100 originally, which we were paid the restitution after, the balance was paid, and this is the additional $900 that was missing, which is what I am here for.
Mm-hmm. Your neighbors.
Yes.
Ms. Spahn, if I find out that what this young man says in his answer is true, this is a sympathetic case on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Because what this young man says, and his mother seems to confirm, is that in the last 2 years he has, in fact, turned himself around. Drug-free?
To a point, yes.
What do you mean to a point?
I've been working on it. I have been clean for about a month now.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Marijuana and alcohol.
You can't just work on that, sir. You
Yeah.
have to, after 2 years.
I know
Stop.
it does take time, and it's kind of hard. It's
Well-
a difficult thing to do, and with the right people around me and the right kind of stuff in my head and not hanging around the bad crowd, I think I can do it.
Did you get your GED?
Yes, I did.
That says that you did here and that you scored rather well.
Yes, I did.
Have you been arrested in the last 2 years?
No.
Since this incident? You seem to say, the
Yes, he
smile
was.
on your face suggests to me that you know he's been arrested
Yes,
since.
he was. The officers actually called me at home.
When?
3 months later, my house was broken into. We assumed it was him, and the police called me to verify that he was arrested 2 days later. And that's when he went to the detention center up at Lookout Mountain.
I never went to Lookout Mountain. I did go to a detention center for a shoplifting charge, Mount View Detention Center.
Let's talk about the last year.
Okay.
Have you been arrested in the last year?
No.
You had to hesitate for a minute.
Well, I wasn't quite sure. I haven't been arrested. I haven't gone to jail or anything, no.
Well, I didn't ask you whether
I
you went
did
to
get a
jail. I asked you
ticket.
whether you were arrested.
I did get a ticket.
What kind of ticket?
Underage drinking.
Ms. Spahn, why is it, first, that that second amount of money, that $900, was not originally reported?
That was up to the sheriff that made the report out, and it explains it all here in this report.
Let me take a look at it.
Showing that the original $900 that was originally stolen was never made it onto this report. And that states it there.
How old are your children?
Almost 7, and the other one is 4.5.
So they were 2 and 5 when he babysat for you?
Actually, yes, around there.
Did he take good care of them?
Do I? Of course.
Did he take good care of
them? No.
But you used him as a babysitter frequently?
4 times.
And you were dissatisfied the first, second, and third time?
The third time. That's when we had found out that money started disappearing out of the house. I came home, my son had a bloody nose, he was in bed, he had blood all over his face and everything, and he had just left him. Obviously, he was going through my house at the time, rummaging through everything that I own.
You want to tell me about taking the money from her house?
Well, I was with my cousin, which was unmentioned to this point so far. He lived in Tennessee at the time, and I actually was not taking part in the theft of the money.
What do you mean you weren't? Listen to me. Mr. Wilson, I want to know. It's very important that when you answer questions that I pose to you, that you tell me the truth.
Right, I understand.
You understand that?
Yes.
I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear nonsense. I don't want to hear that you didn't take part in it. If your cousin was with you and you saw him take the money, and the reason he had access to her house is because you were there, then you're responsible. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is that the kind of excuse you were going to make to me?
No, not exactly.
Well, then I'll hear your excuse.
It's okay. I guess I'll just say I took it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I drive by their house.
And your dogs
I drive by their house, and their little kids flip me off.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Spahn claims her former babysitter, Eric Wilson, stole a large amount of cash from her house and wants him to fess up and pay her back.
Well, I'm being very serious with you. If your cousin was with you from Tennessee, which is what you say here, and that you took the rap for him.
I did.
But your cousin had access to her home through you.
Yes, she agreed. She agreed that my cousin could be with me when we were babysitting. She did agree to it. And when I got back the next day and when I found out the next morning that money was missing, I asked him, and we had gone shopping that night, and he had said he had some money left over. Let's go have a good time, you know. I didn't know it was stolen from her house.
But it had been stolen over a period of several days, not just one day. How many days was your cousin at the house with you?
I believe he did go twice with me.
Mm-hmm. You paid the restitution yourself. Did you ever try to get any money from your cousin?
No.
Why not?
Well, when my grandfather had died, my aunt and uncle, we were out playing basketball and stuff, and my uncle actually kind of assaulted me, so we haven't spoken to them since.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you asked that your cousin could accompany you in this babysitting job, and she gave permission.
Yes.
So your cousin did have access to her home through you.
Correct.
All right. Now, she says that there's an additional $900. Why did you keep so much cash in the house?
We had just sold a 1926 Model T in California here, and we had brought the cash home, and we had not deposited into the bank yet because we were having a carpenter come in to redo our basement. So he wanted to be paid cash, and it had only been 1 week that we had had the cash in the house.
Was the cash kept all in one place?
Yes, it was. It was in a sock rolled up in a locked bedroom behind a bed.
So how come you didn't know at one time how much was missing?
We knew that some money was disappearing. My husband was accusing me, and I didn't know where the money was at the time.
What do you mean, missing from the sock?
Yes, a little bit at a time. And then we put 2 and 2 together, and we had set up some tape in the bedroom door. So when the door had been opened and unlocked, that the tape would be stuck at the top of the door, which it was. He had entered the bedroom, and the sock was on the side of the bed with half the cash hanging out. That was the last night. That was when there was $1,100 taken out. That was one day. He took $1,100 out.
How much money in total was in the sock?
$4,000 total.
And how much was
$2,000 ended up missing. $1,100 was retrieved through court and through the money that he had left. He had used credit cards out of my purse and everything else.
Did you
trying
do
to
that?
buy-
No.
Who did?
I have no.
I have a
no
document right here.
recollection of that.
Let me see what you have.
brought up a card.
Yeah.
It was done on the same day that he had stolen the $1,100. It was notarized and said that that somebody had tried to purchase video equipment, which is what he bought with our money when they retrieved it.
Did you find your credit card?
Oh, yes, I did. The credit card had not been activated yet. So that's why they notified us. So all these things happen within like a week.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me why you don't think that you should be responsible for this additional $900, which I believe was missing.
Well, when she did originally say it, it did change. The amount of what was missing changed 3 different times. We told the judge this at the original trial or original hearing. I pled guilty to the charge. I paid my restitution in full. I paid what the judge ordered me to pay. I paid what she asked the judge to pay, the requested amount. I paid the requested amount. I got off of probation. I paid all my restitution. I filled my debt to society. I'm trying to get back on the straight and narrow, working hard.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, this report suggests that there was some sort of a snafu in the police paperwork, that the money was reported missing, but somehow missed it when it was ultimately presented to the court. So we're faced with a situation where this lady is going to be out $900, which seems to be unfair. And on the other hand, you seem to suggest that you're trying to get your life back in order. And the fact that you've paid your debt to society, which is what you say, doesn't necessarily mean you've paid your entire debt to this lady, because she's still out an additional $900.
I never saw that $900.
Well, whether you saw it or not, if somebody took the money, it wasn't her 2-year-old, it wasn't her 4-year-old, you were involved with drugs and alcohol at the time. I don't know what your cousin was involved with, drugs and alcohol, or maybe he's just a thief. But either you or he, through you, because that's how he got access to her home, took her property. Somebody has to pay for that.
Correct.
There is something else in this complaint that, however, that bothers me, Ms. Spahn.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eric Wilson says after he was arrested for stealing from his neighbor, Janet Spahn, he paid the money back to her. Now Eric says Janet won't stop harassing him and his family.
What bothers me is that you folks are neighbors, and there's a suggestion in the answer that there's a lot of hostility that's still going on now from your end. Your husband, you're angry, and you do things to
Certainly.
harass them. You have a boy and a girl?
No, I don't. I have 2 sons.
Miss Spahn, I assume that you let this young man babysit for you because you know his family, you know his mother. Did she always?
No, I did not.
Well,
we had just moved here. We had just moved to Colorado at the time, and I had asked his mother, assuming that she would, think that, if her son had good intentions to watch my children, if he did not, that she would not let him babysit. But she did, and she knew what his intentions were.
Well, I don't think
that was fault on my part.
No, I did not.
Miss Spahn, I don't think that this lady knew what her son's intentions were.
I came over to their house and introduced myself, and they never even met my mother before I started babysitting.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many other children do you have?
I have 1 daughter.
How old is she?
15.
She okay?
She's
She have any trouble with drugs, alcohol, school?
No, I think her brother's been a good example of a bad example, and she's everything against it because of that, whether that's good or bad. But she's very Christian and she's very straight.
Does your husband live in the house with you?
Oh, yes.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I run a bank.
And what about your husband?
He works for the school district.
So, and you have a long work history? You've been
Yes.
working for a long time? How many years at the same job?
Well, I got promoted, so I went to a different position, but I've been in banking for 11 years.
And your husband, how long has he been working for the school system?
13 after he got out of college. He went right there, and he's been there for 13 years.
Let me tell you why I'm asking these questions, Ms. Spahn, so you'll understand. I've been around the family courts for a quarter of a century. And what strikes me is sad, has always struck me as being sad. You can expect a child to go off, get involved in drugs, alcohol, criminal activity, if they come from a family that is dysfunctional. But what I've seen more and more of is families that appear to be perfectly functional families have a child that just goes bad. And you hope that that turns around. And you never know when that's going to happen. So what I'm suggesting to you is you have two young boys. As good a parent as you are, as good an example as you set for your children, as law-abiding as you are, work history for over a decade, right out of school, got a job, and working in the same job, that's this lady and her husband. I'm sure they try to set a good example for this young man, and they don't know what happened.
Something went wrong.
It happens.
I know.
You have to feel sorry for that. Because, but for the grace of God, it could be you.
Or my kids.
Or your kids.
That's right.
So while there's no question that I believe that this young man is responsible for paying you, for making you whole, I think it's a tragic mistake for you and your husband to continue what I will refer to as a minor vendetta against the family. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So this is a neighbor. This lady did not hope for the kind of problem that she's having with this boy. And I have a sense, from looking at her face, that it ain't over yet.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You better straighten yourself out. Kids make mistakes when they're young, and they say, well, I have a whole lifetime to correct them. How old are you now, 17?
18.
18.
I just turned 18, and I was going to get my record sealed.
Well, you're not going to get your record sealed, sir, if you just got a ticket for underage drinking. That doesn't suggest to me a year ago or whatever, and you, Mr. Wilson, listen to me. You just told me 2 minutes ago that you've been clean for about a month. That isn't exactly a lifetime.
Right.
The mistakes you make when you're 15, 16, 17, and 18, sometimes you can't correct them because they create a lifelong habit. So you have choices that you have to make. And if you don't make responsible choices starting right now, sir, at age 18, you're going to suffer your whole life, and your mother's going to suffer her whole life, and your father's going to suffer his whole life. They ever do anything bad to you?
No.
Are they good parents?
Very good.
It's your responsibility now at age 18 to see to it that they have pleasure from you, not grief.
Right.
So you better start trying harder, much harder. All right, judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Here you are, ma'am.
Thank you.
And on the next Judge Judy.
See, she threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move. And I just can't keep going like this. She put a sign up on her tree, which I could take pictures of, and told me that she will shoot my son if she comes in his way. Don't you dare laugh at me because I have 3 boys.
They called my father and told him that
So
we have
she
a
laughs
security
about this.
system
She has
and
her
a gun
little kids
comes near
flip
us.
them off.
They come near us again,
That's
we're
great
gonna blow
treatment
them
for
away.
a 4-year-old.
I drive by their house and their little kids flip me off.
Excuse me.
Yes.
She's not out there because she's in the house
so.
getting high with her husband. She would not know. Enough is enough. It's settled. She has everything. All we want to do is be left alone. You know,
Which
that's all we
will
want to
never
do.
happen until we move.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is number 178 on the calendar in the matter of Cox versus Tagliabue. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Miss Cox, this is your uncle.
Yes.
And who are you?
I'm Joe's wife.
Your grandmother, your mother, passed away.
Yes.
According to your complaint, your grandmother, with whom you enjoyed a lovely relationship, promised you
her vehicle, of whichever it may be, when she passed away, which is a '91 Thunderbird.
When did she make this promise to you?
This was, she had an '88 Thunderbird, I think it was '88 or '89, which my other aunt had received, and at the time I just turned 16, and she promised me then the white Thunderbird, which went to my aunt, who also has children and needed a vehicle. So she always promised me that she would leave me her car.
You must have had a hot grandmother. She liked Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
So she passed away recently. According to your complaint, the only signed will makes no mention of that bequest.
No. It was also done in '77.
Could I bring up something, Your Honor?
You, sir, are the executor of the estate.
Yes, according to the signed will, yes.
And is there another will, sir?
Yes. This is a will that we received from a attorney that said that from the discussion I had with my sister, Deborah, which is Wendy's mother, that he had told her that...
Just, you can't tell me all these things. This is all hearsay. You received another will.
Yes.
That is unsigned.
That's the will.
Okay, and this was executed in 1992.
Yes.
All right, so let me understand this. We have a 1977 will which makes no mention, that is signed.
Yes.
And makes no mention of this car bequest. Then you have a 1992 will, which according to the plaintiff does discuss the car.
Yes.
Let me just take a look at it. Mr. Tagliabue, were you satisfied that your mother had, in fact, in 1992, had a change of heart, despite the fact that you didn't sign this will?
Yes, I didn't know it. Yes.
Could you sit down, please? Just sit down. The answer is yes. Evidently there was some dispute that your mother had with somebody else, and she, in fact, changed her will.
Yes.
But did not sign it.
As far as I know.
As far as you know, didn't sign it.
Right.
Is there anything that you know about that I haven't said yet?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In the hospital when my grandmother was dying, my husband, my mother, my uncle Bill, and her other son, and my mother, the executor on the second will, she was telling us that her phone book, bank receipts, her will, stuff for her funeral, everything was in her briefcase. We found everything except for her will, which then in her phone book, in 2 different spots, it is noted, Opendahl, the one that drew up the second will, is her attorney has her will. That's how they found him. This is her phone book.
It says in that, attorney has will.
Has will.
Fine.
And I also have a letter from the attorney saying that he was the one that drew it up, and no, she never signed it, that it was her right to be able to take her copy with her, and it was up to her.
Ms. Cox, so then what I'm saying is accurate. Let's put
Yes.
this in order. We have a signed 1977 will, which you acknowledge does not make any bequest of this car to you. Were you born in 1977?
I was born in '76.
Okay, so you were a year old. She wouldn't have left you a car.
No.
Later, you both agree that your mother and your grandmother had the intention of changing her will to leave you the car, but she never fully executed the will, which means she did not have it signed and witnessed. That's according to you, madam, because you just told me that in her papers, in her book, it says attorney has the will. And if this is the will that you got from the attorney, it is unsigned, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So here we have the problem.
This is a copy of the will from 1977.
I'll take a look at it. Mr. Tagliavore,
That's where
listen
I got
to me.
the address.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
I think you were very honest with me a moment ago. I assume that you love your mother and you know in your heart that she may have not been good at executing this 1992 will, but that was her intention, that your niece have this car.
My mother spoke to me in '96 in November.
Who are you?
I'm her daughter also. She called me in Kentucky, was calling me, and I brought up my will. She brought up her will. Nothing was ever mentioned. She said, I have 6 kids. If there should be anything left, we divided equally. Nothing was ever mentioned once. Wendy didn't know. None of us kids knew that this other will existed. Mom never mentioned to not a one of us.
Fine, but it does exist.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I didn't care if I lost the car or not. It was
Come
a
on,
simple.
Wendy, come
you don't
on.
know. You do not know.
I know.
Joy.
You
no,
put
you
us
do not
through
know.
hell.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wendy Cox says her grandmother promised she could have her Ford Thunderbird after she died. But Wendy's uncle, Joseph Tagliavore, claims his mother's will says all of her possessions are to be divided between him and his siblings.
How much property did your mother leave?
The automobile was it, basically.
If you went to sell, sir, a 1991 Thunderbird, how much do you think you could get for it?
5,000, maybe.
Maybe.
6, maybe. Depending on what kind of shape it was in.
Okay, well, what kind of shape is it in?
It's in very good shape.
Okay,
Low
so let's say,
mileage.
and there are 5 kids?
6.
6 kids. So let's make it easy for this old judge, because I'm not real good in math, as Bird can tell you. So let's say you can sell the car for $6,000. So everybody gets $1,000, right?
Right.
The laws in every jurisdiction require a will to be executed in a certain fashion. So we're talking here about a situation where the law, Ms. Cox, in this and practically every jurisdiction in this country requires that a will and any subsequent change of the will be signed and witnessed, correct? On the other hand, we're talking about whatever is morally right with regard to this car. I believe that you two people know that it was your mother's intention for her granddaughter to have this car, for whatever reason. I'm sure she has a lot of other grandchildren, but that's what she intended, for this car to go to this grandchild.
Well,
We're not talking about a lot of money here, Mr. Tagliavore. We're talking about at most $6,000 or $1,000 per person who would tend to inherit the money. So maybe we can come up with some way of being fair to your mother's wishes and also being fair to you, consistent with this will, which is unsigned.
Your Honor, I also
What?
have a letter from that attorney.
So what? I don't need the attorney. They don't dispute that. Ms. Cox, relax.
Okay, but...
Relax. They don't dispute
No,
that this...
I was just wondering if that would be... I know it's not signed. I'm just wondering if he
No,
can't
I
be a
don't read
witness,
letters
can
from
he?
attorneys. If you want a witness here, you have to have a witness here. What I started to say to you is perhaps we can come up with something that is fair, reasonably fair to each side. Would it be fair for Miss Cox to have use of this car until she decides to sell it, and when she decides to sell it, the proceeds of the sale of that car are distributed among the 6 of you? So that in some way, the last wishes of your mother would be honored. Would that be reasonable?
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Well, I'm telling you, sir.
You don't understand the whole story, I don't believe.
Well, I'll listen to the whole story.
This started years ago when my mother first told me. She told me, you make sure that you take care of your brother James, which is on that will.
In 1977.
Long before then.
But
well, if anything happened to her, she said, you make sure that he gets his share of whatever is left because he will not take care of it himself. the money would mean a lot to him. It doesn't mean anything to me. My sister, nobody else in the family, you know, $1,000, like you say, is not much money.
So
When you
what's
come right
James's
down to it.
problem?
He's like one step from homeless, pretty much.
Is there something physically wrong with him, or does he have an alcohol or a drug problem?
No, he's partially disabled. He lives on state aid and stuff like that.
So he has money from Social Security disability.
Right. Which is not much.
I understand that.
$1,000 to him is a lot of money. And this is a promise I made to my mother. And then when this thing all started, as far as I was concerned, I thought my sister was supposed to be executor of this will, and this was all taken care of. She comes after my mother passes away. All the children come to my house. They say, we want you to take care of this. I told Mom in 1995 I wanted to be taken off as executor of the will. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. This was all news to me. So I agreed to do it. Then we started searching and finding stuff. Now this has turned into a total nightmare, and I'm the bad guy when the only thing I say there that is legally binding is that I have to do what the signed will says to do. Now this is all the argument. This is all the bull that I have got from my family.
Sure, because
for doing what I was told to do by the law and asked to do by my siblings.
Well, you're right, Mr. Taglavor. You, unfortunately, are placed in that responsibility because it's not just you, but you have 5 siblings that you have to deal with,
Right,
too.
and my sister Paula says there's another will that leaves her the car. An orthographic will that she cannot find witnesses to. There's wills floating all over this place. But
Listen,
none of them are signed
there are a lot of
except
wills,
for
but no
one.
property.
Right.
You know, a lot of wills, but one old
and there's
Thunderbird.
nothing but a car.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I did not want
Sure
to sue
you
him.
did, Wendy.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
You don't
Yes,
know
you
me,
did.
Joy. You do not know me. This was the man I thought was my grandfather,
I've seen
okay?
your action.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Wendy Cox is suing her uncle, Joseph Taglivor, over her grandmother's will.
So I would assume
So-
that you cannot speak for your whole family.
Oh, no, absolutely
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What do you want to say?
It's funny that Mother never said anything to anybody, not even to Wendy or Debbie. Nothing was said till after the funeral. I mean, she didn't say anything.
No.
Wendy
Who
never
didn't,
said anything.
just a second. Who didn't say anything?
Wendy didn't say nothing. Debbie didn't say nothing. Mom never said nothing.
Listen
that she
to me,
wanted
madam.
Wendy to have the car.
Listen to me, madam.
And I talked to her.
Listen to me.
Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. Whatever you want.
It doesn't. Let me tell you why it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
It upsets me.
Let me tell you why it doesn't matter. Very often when somebody is ill, or even before they're ill, when they are distributing their property by way of a will, and they don't want to create bad feeling while they're alive, they don't want one child to be angry with them or another child or a grandchild to be angry with them, they won't discuss what they're leaving in their will because they figure, when I'm dead, it don't make any difference. So they will not tell their children. Do you have children? Mm-hmm. You have children. Would you have felt badly when you spoke to your mother if your mother said to you, I'm leaving Wendy, my only possession, my car? You would have been annoyed with your mother.
I wouldn't.
Sure you would have. And your kids and your children would have been annoyed. Why is Grandma just leaving? Is she the favorite? Why is Grandma just leaving Wendy the car and I don't get anything? Does that sound possible to you?
Well, if it's her, yes, possible. But if it's her wishes, Mom wasn't
No,
shy.
You don't. It's not a question of being shy. No. It's a question of not having your kids or your grandchildren annoyed with you while you're here to experience the feeling. Mm-hmm. Once you're gone, you're gone. Miss Cox, you understand you have a problem.
Yeah.
And your problem is that even under the common law, which forms the basis of every law of every jurisdiction, a last will and testament was required to have some sort of a writing, at least signed by the, what we call them, the testator or the testatrix. That means the deceased. The only signed will that exists here that I see is one that was made in 1977. It doesn't make any mention of a car to you. Your uncle is not a bad guy. If he did anything else with this car, but do what it says to do in the original will, which is dispose of all my property equally among my children, he could be sued by the other siblings for a violation of his duties as executor of the will.
Thank you.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Well, that's unreasonable. That's unreasonable. I can't permit that to happen. My sense is he would like to do the right thing. But unless all of the siblings together say, you can turn the car over to Wendy because that's what Mom wanted, he can't do that. Do you understand? What I think is too bad is that if all the siblings understand that this was Mom's request, and all we're talking about really is $1,000 that you were concerned about for James, because that would mean a lot to him. Well, maybe Wendy here would say, I'll give James $1,000, give me the car.
My mother, the executor on the second will, which my uncle is not even in.
There's no second will.
No, but
Wendy,
I know. Okay,
there's
but I'm
no
just saying.
second will.
All right, but my mom did agree to do that. My mom was willing to give my Uncle James $1,000 to make sure he was taken care of, because she loves her brother. It has nothing to do with the Thunderbird.
This is a very good lesson to
$1,000,
everybody.
This is ridiculous.
It's a very good lesson to everybody. None of us feel that tomorrow is our last day, so we all tend to put off taking care of business, which keeps things orderly and organized in our lives and prevents this kind of thing happening to a family. Usually when these kinds of things happen within a family, when somebody dies, you're talking about a lot of money. It's absolutely outrageous to me that this is doing this to a family when you're talking about a car, which is the only asset that your mother had. So people who don't take care of their business by keeping abreast of what property they have and how they want to dispose of it and making clear dispositions of that property before they die are not doing their families a favor.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Morally, Wendy, I believe that you are correct that your grandmother wanted you to have this car. Legally, you cannot establish that to me. Moreover, I honestly believe, after speaking to your uncle, that if he had his druthers, he would give you this car. If it was a question of, listen, either the car is mine or it's Wendy's, he would say, you can have the car. He is not in that position. He stands in what we call a fiduciary relationship to his other siblings. He represents them. Unless there is a unity of spirit in that, among those 6 siblings, unless all of them say, give Wendy the car, despite the fact that that's not what your signed will says, he can be sued by them, and it ends up costing him $5,000 or $6,000, probably more with attorney's fees, because he'd have to hire an attorney to defend himself, and you would maybe get the car. So don't blame him. It's not his fault. It's really, unfortunately, your grandmother's fault, because she did not take care of business when she could have in 1992 by signing this will and having a fully executed copy. So this lawsuit is dismissed. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
On the next Judge Judy.
I didn't care if I lost the car or not. It was
Come
a
on,
simple.
Wendy, come
you don't
on.
know. You do not know,
I know.
Joy.
You
no,
put
you
us
do not
through
know.
hell.
Of divorcing, according to your papers. I think that you've both agreed that your marriage is going to be over, despite the fact that I get some sense in these papers that you still care about each other, that your lives are going in different directions. And you come before me today because there is certain property that you have agreed to permit me to resolve with regard to the issue of ownership. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once those issues of property are resolved, then the divorce process will be a relatively easy one.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Are you nervous?
A little.
Okay. Mrs. Peters, according to your complaint, there are 3 items at issue.
Right.
There is a car.
Right, the car.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 1993 Geostorm GSI. And then the issue of my cat and my dog, he gave my cat away. And we had decided that I would...
So there's a dog?
Yes.
Because the cat's gone?
Yes. And then also we have some videos that we...
Some personal videos that he has that you would like back?
Well, I
would
would
like it destroyed?
Yes.
Let's start with the car, because my sense is that the car is, in the area of emotions, the easiest thing to resolve.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the car is in your name,
Yes, ma'am.
but she pays for it.
That is correct.
How did that come about?
Because when Chris and I had moved to California together, for a while he wasn't working, and I had paid some of his car payments, just 2 of them, so that I was afraid he was going to leave me if he couldn't pay his bills and I go back to Colorado, and I didn't want him to go back, so I paid that. And then I got sick afterwards, and I got really behind on my bills, so my car got repossessed, so I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I don't believe
And-
you paid my car payments.
Yes, I did. I did
Well,
twice.
it's really not particularly relevant, because what we're here for is for resolution, not to revisit bad moments.
So anyway,
Does that
that's
sound
why.
right to you?
Yes.
So you had bad credit,
Yes.
but you needed a car,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you helped her.
Yes, ma'am. I told her, I says, now if I sign for this car, you have to promise me that you're going to make your payments on time and you're not going to make this a liability to me.
So you said, I'll sign for it, but promise that you'll make the
Make your
payments
payments.
faithfully and on time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't mind if I help you out a little bit?
No, not a
because I
bit.
got other cases to do today.
Thank you.
Okay. How much more time has to go on this car loan?
About a year and a half.
And how long was the car loan? 5 years?
Yes.
And you would agree, Mr. Peters, that she has made, even though some of the payments were late, she's made all the payments.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So there really isn't much of an issue about that. When you separated, you took the car.
Yes.
So
Well,
the
the issue is the collection agents keep coming to me wanting those payments because they're always late.
They are not, I'm sorry. Sorry, Your Honor, but they're not always late.
Well, I got just this notice right here that she's behind 2 payments.
I'm not behind 2
Let
payments.
me ask you this question, Mr. Peters. How would you like to resolve this fairly with regard to the car? Let me see what your suggestion is.
Well, I would like to be able to sign it over in her name, but that's impossible because they won't do it because of her credit. So I think that she should at least reimburse me maybe half of what the car is worth, and that way.
How's that going to help you?
Well, my car is about ready to go.
How do you think it would be reasonable to resolve this issue? Because what you're really asking is you're asking him to sign the title of the car over to you, and yet he has the liability.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made all the payments up to now. I'm not going to stop making the payments.
Well, I know that because you're driving the car. But if you do stop making the payments, that means they're going to come after him or repossess the car.
I would never stop making the payments.
Mm-hmm.
I've already paid over $12,000 on that car, Your Honor. I'm not going to stop making the payments. Plus, I paid his car insurance until this year so that he could have car insurance because he didn't want to have
That's
car
not true. You
insurance.
left me with $1,500 worth of bills, and
Chris, that is so not true.
and I paid the last 2 months of your insurance.
Okay. How much is this car worth now, approximately?
$7,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have the last statement that you received on the car?
I just have one of the bill that's owed right here.
Can I see it, please? Well, it says this payment, you are delinquent by 1 month.
Actually, that will be true on the 26th. But I'm going to make the payment before the 26th.
Okay. Give me a minute. You still owe a lot of money on this car.
About $6,200, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably paid about $2,000 in overcharges by now.
No, I have not, Chris.
Well, she's paid for a long time. I mean, you have had the car for, if she's had the car for 4 years, if she's had the car for 4 years.
But every time she's late a payment, Your Honor,
I am not every time late a payment, Chris.
Just don't fight with each other. You don't have
Sorry.
to fight with each other anymore. You're getting a divorce. The fighting is over.
Later on Judge Judy.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And you want it destroyed?
Yes, I do.
You want to keep it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old Chris Peters is divorcing his wife Kelly because she won't give up her exotic dancing career. They have asked Judge Judy to arbitrate their dispute over their pets, their car, and their intimate home video.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to suggest to you that for the purposes of liability and everything else, that you sign this car over to her so that the car is in her name. You, of course, always have the recourse of suing her in a small claims arena. You don't have to go through lawyers or anything else. You know she doesn't have money now.
Yes, ma'am.
My alternatives are to force her to sell the car, satisfy your loan, and then she'd have $800 left. Because if the car is worth $7,000 and there's $6,200 left to pay on the loan, that would put her in a position of not being able to be employed, really, because she wouldn't have a way of getting back and forth to work. I assume you drive to work.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've been married for 6 years. Are you employed on a regular basis?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You have a weekly paycheck?
The small one.
Okay. You are not, I assume, Ms. Peters, in your divorce action seeking support from him. Is that correct?
Of course not.
Because you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to look at the long-term picture, Mr. Peters. This car is your insurance. Your insurance that when this whole divorce action is finalized, your wife is not going to ask for support from you because she's not working because she didn't have a car to get to work. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what it really means is for the next year while this car loan is being paid off, you'll have to sweat it a little bit to make sure, you know, that she's going to make the car payments. You also can feel confident that after all the money she's paid for the car, it is unlikely that she's going to allow the car to be repossessed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make your payments, the first thing they do is come and get the car. So, Mr. Peters, you're going to sign the car over to her. That way, when your divorce is over, everything's going to be finished. Is that a good idea?
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, good. So, that was the unemotional part of this dispute. Now, let's get to the dog. The dog's name is Breezy.
Yes.
Breezy is, according to your papers, a boxer.
Yep.
Is that a
Yes.
picture of Breezy?
No, this is a picture of my cat that he gave away without my permission.
Okay.
We'll get to the cat.
Yes,
Okay.
we will.
That's a picture of Breezy.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, Miss Peters, you had a cat and a dog.
Yes.
You had Mac, the cat.
Yes.
Breezy, the dog.
Right.
And why don't you tell me about the arrangement with the cat and the dog when you separated in November?
Okay. We had agreed that I would take the cat, Mac, and I would let him keep Breezy, even though I didn't really want to let him keep Breezy because she's my dog too, and I love her, and I'm the one that took care of her, paid for her food most of the time, took her to the vet, all that stuff.
You agreed that you would keep the cat and he would keep the dog.
Right, and because I can't have the cat where I'm living right now, he had promised that he would keep Mackie for me until I could get my own place. And I thought that instead of taking Mac at the time and having him stay at a friend's house or having my sister keep him, It would be less traumatic for Mac if he stayed in his own house with his own yard until I could come get him. And he looked me in the eye and promised me that he would take good care of Mac.
The same way she looked me in the eye and promised me she'd make all her payments on time.
Oh,
Mr.
God.
Peters.
I did promise and looked her in the eyes about the cat, and then I'd keep it for her. But sometimes when you get...
So what happened with the cat?
The cat kept urinating all over the house and on my clothes and stuff, and I finally...
Coming up on Judge Judy.
It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Peters are in the middle of a divorce, but they have come before Judge Judy to settle custody of their pets, a car, and a personal home video.
Why didn't you call your wife and say, listen, I'm giving away the cat. You want the cat, come and get it?
Because I knew that the cat needed a home, a good home, and Kelly wasn't prepared. She just left the cat. If she was so concerned about Breezy and the cat, then she should have done something before she left.
Okay.
She shouldn't have
Mr.
just left
Peters.
it up to me.
Mr. Peters, you didn't answer my question.
Why didn't I
Why
call
didn't
Kelly?
you, at that moment,
Because I was
pick up
pissed
the...
off.
Right. That's honest. There you go. Okay.
And
That's
I was
honest.
using, and I was thinking, I was thinking that, you know, it was her fault and stuff. And I was sorry. After I gave the cat away, I tried to get the cat back because I realized how much it really meant to Kelly, you know. But at the time of the anger of the moment,
Okay.
I hated the cat.
That's
so.
just a second. That's honest, Mr. Peters. Shh. Shh. That's honest.
Okay.
Well, so now, Mrs. Peters, your husband acknowledges that he got rid of the cat because the cat was soiling all over the house.
But, Your Honor, it's because he didn't clean out his box.
Whatever. For whatever reason. He didn't like the cat. Maybe he looked at the cat as an extension of you. Is that a possibility?
Maybe.
He acknowledges that he was wrong. That's a step. That's not a reason for me to say that you're entitled to the dog.
And I'm sorry I gave away the cat.
Good. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I am sorry.
Because, you know, it's like he did some... The dog has been with him. The dog has always been with him for the last 9 months. The dog has been with him, living in a place where the dog is accustomed to living. There's a certain routine. So if I were to say, well, you gave away the cat, now I'm going to give her the dog, who I'm really punishing is this dog who had very... You know, dog didn't have anything to do with getting rid of the cat. So that wouldn't be fair, would it? Mrs.
Well,
Peters, would
the
that
dog
be
lives-
fair to the dog?
No, probably
Right.
not.
You're right. It would not be fair to the dog. It's like saying if you have a child and there's a divorce, and if one parent acted badly about something, you punish that parent by saying, well, I'm going to limit your visitation with the child. Because that's punishing the child. It's not only punishing the party, but it's punishing the child for something that the child had no control over. This dog is used to living in a particular place. How old is the dog?
3 years.
So for 3 years, lived in the same place, same home, it's got a yard, whatever. Does it?
Yeah, it's got
Got
a
a
big
yard, has a routine.
She's real happy too, Your Honor.
And there's really no reason for me to uproot the dog because he made a mistake.
Well,
Yes, I did.
He made a mistake. He apologized for it. It was not the right thing to do. So the dog stays with him.
Chris, thank you, Your Honor.
Now, the last thing that we're going to address is this video. Ms. Peters, it's your position that this was a rather intimate video that you and your husband took as husband and wife for fun, for whatever. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
Your position is you want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I have a couple of questions to ask you, sir.
Okay.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am, I would never show it to anyone else.
Okay, so you want to keep this for yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick. Very sick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it
Honor,
was
it's very
too-
graphic.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Peters, an exotic dancer, and her husband Chris Peters are divorcing. Judge Judy is deciding what happens to their intimate home video.
There is no reason that I can think of for divorced people to keep pictures, videos, photos of each other that the other party might find embarrassing?
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about it. It was just, you know, I mean, it's like, I love Callie. I'm always going to love her. And it's just, I mean, it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it was
Honor, it's very graphic.
Just a second. I don't want to hear about it. I thought I was being very...
Sorry.
I thought I was being very circumspect about it. I said that there was an intimate thing done with...
I have
between
many
us.
other videos of her, too. I mean, that's not in the same category,
This
but...
is what she wants. This is the one that offends you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bell, I'm going to say this to you one more time, sir, and listen to me very carefully. When you divorce, if you're lucky, you're left with certain pleasant memories that you try not to forget. You know, you had good times with your wife. It just so happens that in your case, after 6 years, your lives have taken a different path. She doesn't want to have to worry about these photographs, these videos, falling into anybody else's hands. God forbid you're out in a car and your car is in a wreck and you are there comatose and your mother goes through your things and she says, I wonder if these are pictures of Chris when he was out skiing. And your mother plays this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir? You know, it's one of the reasons why people are always supposed to wear clean underwear all the time and keep their houses neat. You never can tell what's going to happen. There are all kinds of situations that I can conceive of where even if you don't intend something to happen, this can fall into the wrong hands. Someone can burglarize your house. That's a possibility. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think they'd find the tape.
They're certainly not going to find it, sir, because there isn't going to be a tape.
So there's nothing I can say because...
There is absolutely nothing, sir, that you can say to me that would satisfy me that there is any logical, rational basis for you maintaining anything that might prove embarrassing to her. And if she had something that might prove embarrassing to you, I can guarantee you, sir, it would be in my possession if it was the subject of this litigation, and it would be destroyed.
Do you?
No, of course I don't.
Good. Officer Byrd, you and I are going to take care of this video in the back. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, listen to me. It's resolved. This is going to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed within the next 5 minutes. Officer Byrd and I are going to have fun. We're going to create a little bonfire in my chambers. Now, then you don't have to worry about it anymore, Mrs. Peters. So let us see how we resolve this case. The Geo.
Yes, ma'am.
Is going to be registered in your name. The dog, Breezy, sir, is yours.
Thank you.
The video is mine. This case is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She's got stories that she come home and tell me of stuff that men did to her. Women never did stuff like that when I was dancing. No.
I remember a certain bruise that you had in a certain intimate place that you showed me.
Okay,
Chris.
yeah, but it wasn't.
But don't tell me that it was just
wasn't
me getting
like the
manhandled
things
ever.
that you had happen to you.
Yes, it was
And
like the things. Yes, it was.
There's not a man out there that would share their wife with other men. That's the bottom line.
That's not true, Chris. I shared you with plenty of other women. It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
I still love you.
I still love you too. If you want to go to counseling, we'll maybe get back together. Yes, you can give me that. I do love you.
I love you too.
Warden versus Rivera. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Mr. Warden, you rented a room in your home to the defendant. It's a room that's attached to your house in the back, according to
the garage, yes.
And you were charging her a nominal rent, a couple $100s a month?
Yes.
Now you're suing her for $5,000.
Yes.
She, in turn, has decided to countersue you for $5,000 And I assume, since they're both nice round numbers, each of you is going to tell me why you're suing the other for $5,000. Go.
Well, a couple months after she moved in, the phone bill started going up. So I told her that she would have to take care of that as part of the rent. She agreed. Well, several months later, it got up really high, about $1,900.
For a phone bill?
Phone bill, yes.
Who do you talk to? Madam, who do you talk to for $1,900?
It was a friend of mine that was calling collect.
From where?
Oakland and Hawaii.
Calling collect on his phone?
Yeah, well, I was paying the bill for his phone bill as well.
Listen, whenever my husband complains, I'm going to get a copy of that phone bill and stick it in front of his face.
I've got plenty.
I have too.
So how much do you owe him for the phone?
I've paid amounts. I have them all written down here. For the phone, I've made a $1,000 payment right before I moved out of the house.
How much does she still owe you for the phone?
About $1,500.
Do you have proof of that, sir? She says she owes you about $300.
Okay, well,
Around that area.
here we go. I can give you all these, Your Honor.
No, don't give them to me. Show them to her. Please. Look at them.
Okay.
Take a
So
break.
these are your only receipts, right? that you
Listen
paid?
to me. Those are the phone bills. Is that correct?
These are the phone bills.
All right. Just a second.
I've taken full responsibility for the phone bill. And
So
I've
how
told him
much
that.
do you owe him for the phone?
Well, I moved out because he changed the locks on my door.
I didn't ask you anything about locks. I asked you about phone.
I don't know. I don't know the total amount.
What's the total amount there, sir?
$1,538.38.
Those for long distance and collect calls?
Yes.
Good. Bert, could I have those, please? All right. What else?
She had me arrested.
For what?
For battery.
Okay, tell me about that, sir.
Well, okay. I confronted her about the phone bill many times, and she skipped out on this many times. So I finally saw her going past the window, so I got out of the house, and I stopped her and said, Michelle, what about the phone bill? And she said, I'm in a hurry, I'm in a hurry. I said, no, just tell me when you're going to pay. Well, one thing led to another, and she's in her truck, and I grabbed the keys because I didn't want her to leave. I wanted to know when I was going to get this phone bill, because she was 90% moved out.
You grabbed the keys?
I grabbed the keys.
From where?
From her ignition.
Okay.
Anyway, I didn't get them all the way in my hand. They fell to the floor. Anyway, a couple guys pulled up, and she was crying, so I just let her leave. So about 3 hours later, I see a flashlight shining through my back window, and it's the police. So I go out there, and they talk to me a little bit, and they say, well, Michelle says you assaulted her, and we're going to arrest you. And I said, well, you know, look at her. There's no marks on her. And she says, well, we know, but if she wants you arrested for battery, we have to arrest you. Otherwise, it's a felony on us.
So you were arrested?
So I was arrested, and the end result of that was I went to court, got very sick in court, had to go to the hospital. I had to pay a $506 fine for disturbing the peace because there was no evidence for
So why did you have to pay a fine? Did
Well,
you have a trial?
I paid the fine because I was...
Did you have a trial,
No.
Mr. Warden? So you pled guilty to disturbing the peace?
Yes, I did.
So you pled guilty to disturbing the peace, and your penalty was a fine.
Yes.
So what do you want her to pay that for? Why didn't you go to trial?
It was her fault.
No.
Well, okay.
No,
I got
Mr.
sick
Warden,
that day.
Mr. Warden,
Okay.
you have to understand, sir. If you had gone to trial and you were acquitted and you wanted to sue her for damages, for your costs, your attorney's fees, lost wages, whatever,
Okay.
that's legitimate. But when you go to court and you plead guilty, then you can say, well, I'm going to plead guilty, I'll take whatever consequences there are, and then I'm going to go sue her. Because what you said was I disturbed the peace in this incident. Right?
Right.
Well, I'm not going to go behind that, sir. You pled guilty.
Okay.
The judge say to you, you're telling the truth when you're pleading guilty, Mr. Warden?
No. I just signed a paper.
Well, did you read the paper?
Yeah. I signed away my rights and the little thing they gave me, yes.
You signed away your rights, and
Yeah.
it said, the piece of paper that you signed, this is an acknowledgement that you are pleading guilty to these charges.
Yes, you're right.
You are giving up your rights to have a trial. You have an absolute right under the Constitution of
yes.
this state. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, so forget that amount of money. What's
All
next?
right,
But I'm going
well-
to find out. Did you have him arrested?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because he grabbed me by my neck and...
Just a second. Are you telling me he grabbed you by your neck?
He grabbed me by my neck and pinned me up against the seat in my truck.
Tell me how that happened, Miss Rivera.
I came home from work, and well, just before that, Chris was always leaving notes on my door. I have a 3-year-old child, and he threatens me in front of my child. He throws trash cans at my front door.
Why didn't you move?
I was in the process of moving. I told him, I gave him notice that I would be out by the 30th of the month. And meanwhile, he's making my life miserable. He's left notes on my door saying that I'm not allowed to have any boys staying at my house.
Just late night visitors. She
No,
had
that's
traffic
not what
through
the
my
note
house
says.
all night long.
I did not. Here's the notes that he would pin to my door with
Let me
steak
see 'em.
knives. Here's more.
Did you write all these notes, sir?
Well, I don't see them, but I did leave notes on her door
I'm going to
telling
show
her.
them to you. Why didn't you just move to evict her?
Well, I made it clear that she was only supposed to be there a few months. She wasn't supposed to be there. That wasn't a rental property. It's not a rental room. I only let her move there as a favor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your
Your carpet is still sitting on my neighbor's lawn. When are you going to come get it?
I'm not coming to your house.
I'm just going to trash everybody's house.
No,
I don't
think so,
care.
Chris.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 40-year-old Chris Warden claimed he rented his guest house to auto detailer Michelle Rivera, but she ran up huge phone bills and caused widespread damage.
What else are you suing her for, Mr. Warden?
Well, at the court, I was very sick. And one of the reasons I just wanted to get out of there that day and be done with it, I went to the hospital that night, and I spent the night in the hospital that night, stress-related, and then 2 days later I had surgery, and I lost a month of work because of that.
Yeah.
And it was all due to stress, this stress. I can't believe the things she was doing.
And the fact that you've been under stress and strain as a result of this incident, sir, is not something that I intend to compensate you for. You entered into this agreement with her, and if you had an illegal tenancy in the back of your house, that's something that you have to deal with if you're doing something that's illegal. If you can't have her evicted, right? The law is there for your protection as well as the tenant's protection. If you have a room that you're not supposed to rent out to somebody, you can't evict them, and if they make your life miserable, as she did, told me, then you take your chances if you can't get her out. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
All right, so
and I
she's
knew
not
I was taking my chances when she
well, you
moved
take
in.
your chances. But she owes you for the phone bill. That's absolutely clear, $1,538. As I said, that's some hefty phone bill. Now, Ms. Rivera, you've countersued him for $5,000. I'd like to hear about this.
Well, initially, I wasn't planning on suing anybody. After the arrest, I felt really bad. I felt bad in the first place because he was a friend. I went through a lot of emotional stress during the months that I was living there because of these notes and the things that he was, the way he was behaving.
A lot of those notes, madam, refer to the phone bill.
Okay, but...
Just a second. A lot of the notes refer to the phone bill. He rented you a place to stay for $200 a month, which is very cheap, and you had access to his phone, and you went into and you used his phone, and as far as I'm concerned, abused his phone by having total strangers call collect his phone collect to the tune of $1,900 and $1,000. That's outrageous, right? And when he asks you for the money, you blow him off. What do you expect him to do? Kiss you on both cheeks?
No.
Ms. Rivera, you're not going to stand there and look and say to me, well, you know, I didn't do anything wrong. You did. You did do something wrong. So you want to tell me again why you think I should even consider giving you $5,000 and for what?
I didn't blow him off on the phone bill. I made payments. I have the list of the
You
payments
owe
that
him
I've made.
$1,538 that he hasn't been paid. You think the phone company is going to say to him, I'll wait until see the outcome of what happens when you go to court? He's got to pay it.
The phone bill is paid as of this morning. I've called the phone company this morning before I came in here and verified there's right now a $26.62.
What does that have to do with you? Did you pay it?
No, when I left the house, I had to move out of my house at 11 o'clock at night, all of my belongings,
Hey,
with
listen,
my child.
You acknowledge, if I believed you, what you said in your papers at least, you said, well, I maybe owe him $300 on a phone bill.
Yeah.
Right? I want to tell you something. That's outrageous. When did you move out?
I moved out on, I believe, May 8th.
So for a couple of months, how dare you owe him $300, if I believe you, $300 on a phone bill. And it was a lot more than $300. The fact that he's paid it so that he would be able to maintain his phone in his house, right, is none of your business. I want to know why you think he owes you anything.
Well, basically, with the phone bill part, I wasn't going to go back to his house again after he assaulted me. I mean, that was very clear. When he got out of jail in the morning, he called my voicemail and left a message that I now owe him another $250 for his bail. It's just a matter of playing games. I was waiting for this battery case to go up into court. I haven't been notified yet that he even had a trial date. I wasn't going to put myself in that, seat to go there where he can abuse me some more.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today,
I had gotten out of the shower, and I was in my robe, and I flashed him.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
I want to tell you something. I don't see that he abused you, and I'm not considering the fact that the district attorney allowed him to plead guilty to disorderly conduct rather than to an assault, even an assault misdemeanor, as evidence of the fact that he actually assaulted you on the day in question. Assault to a plea of guilty to disorderly conduct is hardly a felony. It's not even a misdemeanor. It's probably in this jurisdiction no more than a violation. Now, you still haven't told me why you think he owes you a quarter, Miss Rivera.
Well, I didn't want to file a countersuit against
Good,
him.
then you didn't.
Okay.
Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,538. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Thank you.
It's none of your business what I do.
That's right.
Okay.
And I don't care what you do.
Good, and I don't care what you do either.
Good. You stay away from my house. And
I don't come near your house. I don't
You
touch
do.
your card. You think
Yes,
I really
you
waste
do.
my time on you?
Yes, you have.
Chris, I haven't given you a second thought since I left there.
Baloney. Then why are you here?
You're sick. Well,
What
you
a
grabbed me by my
bitch.
neck and you know it.
I did not touch
Go
you.
ahead, call names.
Show me
Feel
some
good?
marks.
You feel good?
You think
Feel good?
I'd break your neck if I touched you?
You threatening
You're just
me?
No, I never threatened you. Never.
And now the next case.
Parties on Sanchez versus Stemwettle. Step forward, please.
22-year-old student Christian Sanchez is suing his ex-fiancée, 23-year-old Amy Stemwettle, for money he claims she owed him when they broke up. Amy says he tried to blackmail her with a nude photo.
You were together for how many years?
About a year and a half.
That's right. About that time.
And during that year and a half, you lived together for a relatively short period of time. How long?
About 6
From
months.
June to end of September.
And you say that the defendant owes you some $755. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me for what?
It's for rent, phone bills, and cable bills.
You moved into an apartment together.
Yes.
A house.
House.
House. Signed a lease?
Yes.
Both your names? And what happened, Mr. Sanchez?
Well, our engagement, we broke up, and she was looking.
When?
We broke up on August 9th, '95.
Why?
It just didn't work out.
Okay. But according to your complaint, the defendant lived in the house after August of '95.
Yes, she did.
How did that come about?
Well, she asked to live a little longer because she was looking for a place to stay.
Is that right?
Yeah, I was looking for an apartment at the time.
So you broke up on August 9th. When did you finally move out of this house?
Probably the beginning of October.
And what arrangements had you made for the bills during that time?
We arranged that she asked, like, she knew that she owed me money. And she,
Don't tell me what she knew. What conversation did you have?
how to arrange the monthly installment. She wanted to pay by monthly installments what she owed me.
What did she owe you for?
The rent, the phone, and the cable bills.
You mean from August 9th until the beginning of October? That's 2 months.
It started from May 26, '95, when she started accruing a debt to me.
Is that right?
No, we were engaged. We were living like we were married. We put all of our money together, and he would write all the checks.
So according to you, you didn't owe him any money? How much was the whole rent on the house?
Per month?
Yes.
500.
Well, for the time that you lived there after you broke your engagement and you were looking for a place to live, Were you paying him rent?
No, we
contributing
lived,
towards the rent?
We had one conversation about it, and I had said that he had asked for half the rent, and I said that I'd pay half the rent if he paid half the groceries and did half of the work around the house, and he wouldn't do that.
So you bought all the groceries?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it was. I would do the shopping and I would do the cooking.
Well, did he agree to that? Did he agree that you would just do the work around the house in exchange for your share of rent? Did he say that's okay?
Well, it was just another argument. There was never an agreement made either way.
According to your complaint, Mr. Sanchez, there was a conversation that you had with the defendant where she said to you, how much do I owe you? And you said?
I just gave, it was like, I just said $400, call it even, you know.
You remember that conversation?
Nothing came up about the $400 until I called him about, I think it was this past February, and he had...
What'd you call him for?
He had a picture of me that I wanted back. And when I asked for the picture, he said, well, you can have the picture if you give me $400.
Just a picture that I assume that you wouldn't like around.
Right.
Did you get your picture back?
I did get the picture, but I don't know that he doesn't have copies or didn't show everyone in his fraternity.
You'll never know, but you got your picture back.
I got the picture back.
Okay. You didn't do anything like that,
No.
sir, did you?
No.
Okay. Ms. Stemwendel, can you prove to me what monies you contributed to the house during the months of August, September, those 2 months? Can you?
No, I kept no records of that. I didn't think that it was really necessary.
Well, it seems fair to me that while you were living in the same house and yet not engaged, once you had broken this engagement, that you should pay half of the rent, half of the utilities, half of everything else, because you're no longer in a situation where you're moving towards a marriage. You're in a situation where you're moving out the door, right? So give me some idea of what you say you contributed during this 2-month period.
Well, while I was going to school, I was a nanny, and I probably brought in $150 or $200 a week, and that, I'd say 100 of it would go towards the bills that we were paying together.
Do you remember her giving you any money during this period, sir?
She didn't give me anything.
She gave you no money?
No money.
And can you prove that you gave him any money?
No, I would have no proof of it, because a lot of times being a nanny, I'd be paid in cash, too.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I think it's only reasonable. Your initial agreement, according to you, was $400. That's certainly most fair, considering that the rent was $500. You agree with that a month, which means for the 2 months it was $1,000 that you were living there, which means if you just paid for rent alone, your share would have been $500, right?
Okay.
Okay, and that doesn't include utilities, phone, anything else. Now, during that time, if you bought groceries, it certainly didn't come to that kind of money. Your oral contract, which I believe was for $400, so it's very easy. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $400. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so excuse you may step out the back to your right.
On the next Judge Judy.
That basically he had no morals. Not only was he blackmailing me for the picture, but he had to serve me with papers in front of a 3rd grade class. That's pretty low.
I mean, we could just put it behind us and let's go on and move on with our lives. And that's all I think all of us want to go, is just go on our separate lives and just go on.
This is the new boyfriend. This is Jeff.